The following program deals with a controversial
subject.
The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation.
The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information.
the top talents in the comic book business are here to tell everything they know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Tuesday night here on Beyond Wednesdays, another Industry of Comics show, episode 64? I believe it's
65.
64, 65?
I thought 64 was last week.
I think 63 was last week. I think we're 64 this week. Let me double check.
I mean,
but
anyways,
anyways,
we put numbers on the episodes in the comments or something. I mean,
64. Right. So, yeah, it would be nice.
I'm just trying to get 5 more episodes in. That's all.
We're at the retirement number, right? We can retire now. 65? Yeah. Is that what
exactly? Ethan Long in the chat.
Yeah. Har. Yeah, been a very busy week for everybody. A very a good week, good start of the week for everybody, it seems so far. Haven't talked to Emmett yet. Emmett, how's your week been going, brother?
Oh, killer, man. It's just, it just keeps better and better.
I hear you. I know Jesse was just talking about the Battle Beast packs. And the Battle Beast blind bag packs are a different thing, but these are the big clutch Battle Beast packs.
Heavy as heck, too.
Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. We're going to be getting into that tonight as we kind of wind down the show, talking about what street date is, what street date means in the comic book industry. And then our big talk of the day will be talking about IP and public domain and what that means for upcoming characters such as Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, which is very interesting, and we'll have a special guest on for that. Ross Richie is going to join us tonight. But I figured we would start out talking about something pretty damn cool that happened today over in Dennis's neck of the woods that we can talk about, which is pretty interesting. Dennis, why don't you go ahead and lead us into this as I bring up the picture.
All right. So last week, right after Free Comic Book Day, I had a young man and his mom and the whole family, and they all come in and they're pushing the young man to the front. And it was, hello, sir. My name is Mason, and my comic is Mason's Marvels, and I made this comic myself, and my family helped me assemble it, and I would like you to put it in your comic book store. And I'm like, well, Mason, all right, can I see the comic? You got a copy for me? Yeah. He reaches in his big bag. He's got a bag that's the size of his torso. He pulls out a comic book, and I'm just like, oh, okay, very nice. Oh, okay, yeah. And you did all this yourself? He goes, well, my family helped me assemble it. And they're like, yeah, we had to help him staple it. I was like, yeah, no, that's fine. I go, Marvel doesn't make all their own comic books with the staples. And then I said, well, what do you want me to do with this, Mason? I would like you to carry it in your comic book store. And I'm like, and how much is the cost? He goes, well, it cost me $3 to make it. No, I don't need to know how much it costs you to make it. How much are you charging me, the retailer? And he goes, I could do it. I charge $6 for the comic book, but I can let you have it for $4. And I'm like, oh, so I'll make $2 on every one I sell. He goes, yes, sir. You'll make $2 and I'll make $1. And I think that's a pretty good deal, sir. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I have 2 requests. Can I have this copy for me to read and keep? He goes, yes, sir, that's for you. And I'm like, okay, I need you to make me a poster saying who you are and what your comic about, and I'll buy 5 copies as soon as you make them. Oh, okay, that's a deal. And he's just puts out his hand and shakes my hand. Great. And so today one of the busiest days of the week, by the way, when I was trying to get caught up. Mason came into my store with 5 copies of his book and a little promotional poster that I put up on the wall. And then he and I took some promotional pictures for his family out in front of the store. I cleared a spot on the wall and I put his poster up, and I bagged and boarded his comic books and put an official Wonder World sticker for $6 on it. And he officially got his first spot on a comic book wall.
That's awesome. That is so cool.
Awesome.
There you go.
Yep.
Creating a new comic book creator, helping to create one right there.
What was the young kid that created the book that ended up going to Image Cop something?
Axe Cop.
Axe Cop, yeah, Axe Cop. So that's kind of how Axe Cop started, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never. Here's the thing. I had a whole lot of the staff were kind of side-eyeing me, like, "Oh God, Dennis, what are you? It's a kid's comic." I'm like, "Guys, you don't understand. That is a pebble dropped in a pond, and you don't know whether it's going to turn into a typhoon someday, or he grows it and starts chasing women in 5 years." Yeah, but you have an opportunity, especially the opportunity the 3 of us have, to be able to take a young man like this, who showed the initiative to even bring a comic book into a comic book store, to know he knew all the questions I asked him. I mean, he didn't have it into a slick sales pitch. I mean, I think he's 8 years old, but he knew what he was there to do. And with the help of me going back and forth with him, he did it. He took his shot, and I'm not gonna be a guy jumping up to block his shot, critiquing his line work or any of that. That's his comic book. That's the most important moment for him as a young comic creator. Welcome to our world, and it cost me $20 freaking dollars. Tell me how much money we waste on a daily basis that doesn't get more of an impact than what we just did.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Exactly. Perfect timing.
Yep.
So,
speaking of not knowing what to do, I want to get on my soapbox here today. So it took me an hour to get to this record store today. I walked in like this. Actually, I had an Iron Maiden hat on. I didn't realize I put on my coffin hat. I walked in. The guy looked at me and he said, "Can I help you find anything?" And I said, I'm wearing an Iron Maiden hat, an Iron Maiden shirt. No, you can't help me. I'll find it myself. So what kind of service is that? Right? I know you're not supposed to prejudge anybody, but you're in a freaking record store. At least show me where the metal is, right?
I mean,
right?
I could understand if you were wearing a Rush shirt, just ignore him and hope he goes away.
Yeah.
But
I'm with you. I'm not a Rush fan either, man.
No.
I know that's sacrilege for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's worse than giving someone $20.68 at the cash register nowadays, and the person's like, "Well, it's only $17.68, sir." Yeah, you just give me $3 back. You don't have to give me the change. Well, that doesn't make sense. It's your manager.
Dude, I did that.
Rush, not a metal band anyway.
10 or 11 years ago, and my kids were in the back seat, and I did it at a McDonald's drive-thru. And you could literally see the smoke coming out of the girl's ears and the sparks popping.
Yeah.
And my daughter, out of the back seat, at this age, she's like 8, 7. She's already been running the register at my store for like 2 years. She goes, "You just want her to give you back $5, right, Dad?" I'm like, yes, my daughter. That's exactly what it was. $15.79, and I gave her $20.79. And my daughter, from the back seat at age 8, understood. I just wanted a $5 bill back.
Yeah.
No.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a crazy world the way we live in, how service is given to you or no service is given to you. So it's kind of strange as I go across the nation. I think I was telling you guys this story. I went to a store in Macon, Georgia, and to support them. And I literally walked in. I was going through all these long boxes, pulling out books. I had about 30 books out. And the guy's talking to a customer about how bad his business is. And I'm like, okay, well, I got 30 books. I come around the corner. He's still bitching to his customer that he can't get any. No one's buying, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, I'm on like 40 books now. You can't say hello to me?
Yeah.
And I finally just walked out. I'm like, I guess I'm not a customer to this guy. So
that's weird. That either there's a lot of either you walk in and people, come up and say, "Hey, how you doing?" or they just chill and say nothing behind the counter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't know if you saw that video that I made called The 10 Rules of Working in My Stores. I took my orientation pack that I've been using for 20 years and I just put it to video. Today, I had my first employee watch the video and then get the orientation because we just hired a new person today. So I'm sitting there, I'm doing that orientation and they've already watched it. They've already watched the video and they're like, they just watched it. So they're easy. They're kind of a few pop quizzes hiding in there, but it's so much common sense that they were like, yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Oh yeah, that's exactly what you should do. And I was just like, yes, this is common sense. And I don't think a lot of employees or a lot of, employers train their customer or their employees in any way, shape, or form like I have done for 20 years. Just a hard and fast, this is the rules of the road, drive with the flow or ride with the flow of traffic, just the stupid stuff that we got taught in school. And I was explaining this to somebody today, like, maybe I should do a video on this procedure. And they're like, you know what? That might be a waste of time. And I'm like, 35 years ago, this year, I watched a 30-minute video produced by the McDonald's Corporation on the proper way to make French fries. And I tell you this, you go, Jesse, I don't know how many McDonald's you stop at to get your McRibs, but McDonald's fries taste the same in Macon, Georgia, in Detroit, Michigan, in Phoenix, Arizona, in New York, and I'll tell you this, in Japan. They taste the exact same. The oil's a little different in Japan. They're a little bit crispier. But they taste the same. They're the exact same size. They're the same consistency. And it takes a 30-minute video to train your employees to make it that perfect.
Are you sure you weren't watching the video from McDowell's?
No.
All right, that's a no one. Most of you guys aren't going to get that.
Yeah, no, nobody's going to know that. Nobody watched that sequel either.
Coming to America.
Yeah, there you go. I do want to tell a karma story, which I didn't get because it just happened this weekend. So I've been obviously doing these garage sales and estate sales, and I found a block party sale. And so every spot I was buying 10, 20, 30 items. I came across a lady who had all this amazing Disney stuff. So I bought everything. I bought the whole thing because I'd never seen any of this stuff. And it turns out she's the travel agent for all the bigwigs at Disney. So I have all this cool stuff. Well, at the end, the seventh place, there was I barely saw a garage open. So I'm like, well, maybe they're having a garage sale. And it was two old ladies. So I said, hey, you guys doing a garage sale? Oh, yeah, we got all this stuff. They didn't have that much stuff. And I felt bad because I know for where they saw me, they could see I was buying everything. And my car was kind of parked in front of their place anyways. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy something. So I ended up buying $20 worth of jewelry that was sitting on their table that I'll probably just throw away, right? But what's funny is the one thing that's happening across America, people don't take cash anymore. So everybody's like, oh, can you Zelle that to me? Or, oh, here's my Venmo QR code. Can you send me the money? No problem. So I go, okay, it's $20. Do you want Zelle? What do you want? Oh, we want cash. I'm like, well, I don't have cash. I'm going to go to the 7-Eleven and get you $20 in a $20 bill. And so then I got about halfway and I'm like, do I really need this jewelry from the 70s? I mean, this big orange rock, all this stuff. I'm like, no, I promised them. So I go back and I go, here's the $20. And I just want to let you know, I really don't need this stuff. I just wanted to help you two ladies out. I'm really a comic book guy, a toy guy, and a music guy. And they're like, comic books? We have all these comic books over there. So if you look at my Facebook page, there's all these Silver Age comics I ended up buying. It was an amazing buy. It was all about karma, right? Because I really wasn't going to go back. And that $20 got me this great thing. So the whole point of the story, folks, if you go out there and you don't see something, ask them, hey, do you have comics? Yeah, and the comics, sometimes comics are so much they're not going to bring them out, right? Because they're in the boxes. The kid left those long boxes. Dang that kid. So that's my
the real moral to that story. The real moral to Jesse's story is always have a pocket full of cash, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. The moral of the story, point. Yeah, exactly. Carry cash going forward.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's for sure. Yep. So cash is always king too. So if you have the cash, they might, do a little bit better of a deal on it, right?
Oh, so, yeah, sure.
Cash rules everything around me. Wu-Tang Clan.
Amen. Right. Amen. So you have any good things showing up in the shop this week there, Emmett?
Oh yeah, today a guy came in and he's like, my brother passed and he was a hoarder. I have all this stuff. I was like, oh, I buy stuff. So he starts bringing in boxes and boxes. I was going to bring a piece or two, but they sold so fast on eBay. I didn't want to bring them and get them misplaced before they get shipped out. It was all Hot Wheels, brand new, in protective cases. They were all the red line, but not the spread line from the 70s. It's all the red line that you'd buy online, like as a member of the red line.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff, like $180 red Hot Wheels cars.
Yeah.
And I got like over 450 Hot Wheels.
Wow.
All different, from like regular stuff all the way up to this super high end stuff. Yeah, really good stuff. And then before we close tonight, this lady comes in. She goes, do you guys buy comics? I was like, every day. She goes, my uncle died and he's been collecting since he was 5 years old. So I just pray that she returns. I gave her 2 of my cards. She said she had thousands and thousands and thousands of books.
I bought a
now
little
people don't really know what thousands is. They say thousands, probably maybe 8,000, but fingers crossed.
I had one little collection come in today of comic books, and the guy called ahead, said he was going to be in an hour. I waited an hour and a half. I had to go run to the printers to go pick up something, come back, get the call. The guy with the comics showed up. Okay, just keep him there until I get there. I get there, and he's got cracked out slabbed books. You'll love that, Emmett.
Oh, yeah.
They're all in the protected seal.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, somebody cracked these out of slabs. And there was a Amazing 298. There was a Secret Wars 8. There was a Thor 125, a First Destroyer, and something else that was just garbage. And I'm like, why was this even sealed? A Dan Slott signed comic book, so it was a yellow label at some point. Yada, yada, yada. But he had a ripped cover, Strange Tales 110.
Wow.
Like, I would say probably an eighth of the cover was ripped off. So I couldn't find a comp on a coverless or a mid-cover 110. And he was really pressing me for like find a comp on this. And I was like, guy, I don't have I see a 1.5 with a full cover for 600. I'm going to have to value this right around the 200 to 300 range. So I valued it at $250, right between $200 and $300. You can't see the issue number or the title. That's the tore off part. And I make him an offer on all the books. I offered him on the one pile and offered him on the single issue. And he was like, "Oh, no, that's not going to happen." No problem, man. Have a good day. I leave. I go over to the other store. My manager over at the comic store calls me and goes, "Hey, Dennis, can you come back over here for a second?" I'm like, yeah, what's up? The guy's there. He called his buddy who said he would give him apparently some higher price, and his buddy was like, no, I don't have any cash right now. He renegotiated for an extra $20 in store credit and a Mountain Dew. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I bought that just in the middle of doing all the other stuff I was doing today.
There you go. You ever worried that those could be stolen?
I don't. Here's the thing is I do worry. We have rules in place. You have to show your driver's license over a certain amount. So he had to present his driver's license. If you got stolen stuff 9 out of 10 times, when you say I have to see your driver's license, you'll get, oh, you know what? I left it in my car. I'll run out and grab it real quick, and then you never see him again.
Yeah.
I always walk them. I go through the whole. Hey, so how did you get the collection?
Yeah.
I want to hear the story.
Yeah.
If the story starts to smell, then I got to start investigating more about driver's license. If the police ask, who can they check with? Once you tell them if the police ask, it's over.
Yeah.
If they've stolen it, they're not sticking around for it.
Yeah.
Now, I did have somebody contact me on a YouTube video I did. I had some stuff, and the guy said, "Hey, that was stolen from me." And I said, "Okay, that's quite possible." I said, "Do a police report.
Yeah.
Have the police come, and they'll get all your stuff, and I'm going to give it to the police.
Yep.
I'm not giving it back to you without somebody going to jail,
Right.
because I've paid real money for this.
Yeah.
So I have to eat it if I took it in stolen, but somebody's got to pay."
I had that happen with Magic cards. When I wasn't really dealing with Magic cards, I had an amazing Magic collection come in. And we went back and forth, went and had to send somebody to go get cash from the bank, paid it all in cash, got the guy's info, had security cameras. I knew what he looked like. I'm like, you know what? I don't even want to deal with this Magic right now. I called my buddy. He deals in Magic all the time. I made him an offer. He goes, so that I didn't have to deal with it. He buys it. I send it down to him. A day later, after he gets the cards and I get his cash, hey, one of my customers just came in with a stolen list of Magic cards, and every card that you just sold me was on that list. I'm like, get the F out of here. So we went through the whole process. Actually, I had to give him back his money to get the cards back to me so the police could come down and collect them from me so that I could give them the report, give them the driver's license info, the photo, the video of the guy selling it to me, et cetera, et cetera. Never, I saw one $20 reimbursement from the court that this guy had to pay as part of his parole. Never saw a second payment. And I still are owed that money.
Yep.
Yeah.
There is a big scam that goes around where they'll bring you the stuff, they present their ID and all that, and then an hour later the dad will come in, or an old guy will come in and say, "My daughter stole my stuff." I'm like, "You got a police report?" "Well, no." I'm like, "Well, you better get a police report, and just keep in mind you're getting a police report on your daughter." Right?
Yep.
But there are so many scams out there, guys. You got to protect yourself. Get that ID. Make sure it matches. Hey, my ID's in the car. Well, then go get your ID. But guess what? Take your comics with you, because I don't want you to come back in and say that I stole half your stack of comics.
So
It's-
Pokemon, there's not a lot of great fakes for Pokemon that has come through the store, but man, some really good Magic fakes.
Yeah.
Holy crap. I mean, if you know what you're doing, you can pick them out, but they look great.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing that Magic has not gotten right for the fakers is, and it's,
Feel.
I can't teach it to you, I can't explain it, but the rigidness of the card.
Yeah.
They've never been able to get that perfect thinness that, you know, there's a sound that a Magic card makes when you flick it with your finger.
Yeah.
Right.
And it won't crease if you curl
Right.
it
Yep.
from end to end. It won't crease. It won't pop the crease.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then there's florets on the back. If you take a loop to it, they have a printing thing
Yeah.
that they haven't figured out how to fake yet. That's only a matter
Yet.
of time, but
Yet.
Yeah.
they
Well,
make some fantastic Jordans. If you've seen those, you're into cards, right, Brian? Have you seen all
yeah.
the fake
Yep.
Jordans?
That's why I
They're
tell
perfect.
that's why I tell people don't buy a single Jordan unless it's graded. So
Yep.
um,
And even then, apparently some of those fakes got through the early passes. for
They
the
always
graded
No, but
do.
ones.
they have them online already graded.
yeah.
They have them in eBay just graded already, but it's a company you've never heard of.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have our guest tonight to join us to talk about our first topic, which is a very interesting one that we're going to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, let me bring our guest in first. A guest that has been on the show many a times. He's one of our favorite people in the world, not just the world of comics, but the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Mr. Ross Richie. Ross, how you doing, brother?
Howdy. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you, man. All right, so we're gonna work this out, and it's very interesting because I think Ross is one of those guys that knows a ton about our topic tonight. I feel like this is right up your right into your wheelhouse, Ross, and that is the IP public domain issue that is coming up soon with 3 major DC characters: Superman 2034, Batman 2035, Wonder Woman 2036 are all on the horizon. We can see them right now, which is very interesting. And Dennis, you just recently put out a video talking about this on your channel, which is just gone crazy, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to do a bunch of videos before I left for Japan so that while I was in Japan, I would have content dropping so that it wasn't just stagnant, because you have to constantly feed the algorithm. So one of my friends, Teresa Colgrove from Pack Rat Comics, sent me a message saying, hey, maybe you should do a video about this. And I was like, you know what? Great idea. So I just threw together a hastily, just kind of a 10,000 foot view of what public domain is, what's already slipped into public domain, who's coming into public domain, what that could mean, etc. I screwed up half of the dates and a little bit of the background, but for the most part, it was a kind of a comprehensive video of something that a lot of people really were interested in about. It dropped, I think, the day I got back from Japan, which was good because I was in no way, shape, or form ready to make any new content that week. And it got like the average hits, like I think 1,200 views in like a couple days. And I was like, oh, nice, good. People liked it. I'm getting lots of good comments and blah, blah, blah. And then the algorithm caught that shit like a pirate ship waiting to get away. And it went to, I think it's at 13,000 views now.
Yeah.
I'm like, 13,000 people are interested in this? And I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. And I told you guys about it. And they said, let's talk about it on the show.
Well, it's kind of interesting because, Ross, you have recently also, within the last year or so, been writing kind of about this whole public domain thing. You have a great post talking about this on your LinkedIn. At least that's where I found it, on your LinkedIn page, where you've been dropping some great posts as of the last year or so. But you really went deep diving into this, talking about minor arcana and stuff, or not minor arcana, into into public domain on your LinkedIn. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, like we have examples of big franchises going public domain already and what the commercial expression is. And so, Dennis, I haven't seen the video, so I apologize. I haven't done my homework. But, Mickey Mouse is public domain now. And
Well, just Steamboat Willie.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's pause it for a second and let's unpack for the audience what that means. So I'm going to use Detective 27, the first appearance of Batman, as an example. Actually, it's better to use Action Comics #1, first appearance of Superman, because in Action Comics #1, Superman does not fly, and there's no use of kryptonite to be his weakness. And many of the signature elements, like the design of the outfit, are not what you're familiar with. And so the version that's in Action Comics #1 will become public domain, not the version that DC is publishing right now, which has gone through 90 years of revisions and lore and additions to the canon. So when you say just Steamboat Willie, what you mean is Steamboat Willie is the first appearance of Mickey Mouse as a film short, and doesn't look exactly like the kids would say it's the Temu version of Mickey Mouse. Right. So he's going to look a little dollar store, a little busted, a little not cool. And so, what is really, I think, important in the conversation is understanding the difference between copyright and trademark. Now, let's deconstruct the word trademark. It's a mark of trade. A lot of people don't think about that, but it's right there in the word. And so trademarks have to be maintained across many different product categories. And so you could have a trademark for skateboards and a trademark for, coffee drinking accoutrement, but not have a trademark for restaurant chains, for example. And so if I can't think of any examples that are well known where there's one product in the trucking business and there's another product in comic books and they're called the same thing, but nobody gets them mixed up. There's no confusion. But basically, Mickey Mouse is a trademarked term, and the trademark has not expired. Now, for us comic book folks, I'm going to bring it home and I'm going to talk about Dynamite. So Dynamite published a Tarzan book, and Tarzan has lapsed into public domain. But Edgar Rice Burroughs, who created Tarzan, his estate maintains the trademark for the word Tarzan. So when Dynamite publishes Tarzan comics, they cannot put Tarzan in the name, in the title, in the logo of the comic book. So the Dynamite comic books are called Lord of the Jungle. Now, you look at the cover and it's Tarzan, right? So it's a Tarzan comic. And inside he's called Tarzan, and he has all the functionality of Tarzan. But with Batman, you can be damn sure that when that lapses, Warner Brothers is going to have Batman. They're going to have The Dark Knight. They're going to have The Dark Knight Detective. They're going to have all of the different iterations of what you would call Batman. And they're going to maintain those trademark categories. And they're going to protect all those zealously. In the same way that with Mickey going public domain, we have not seen an explosion of Mickey Mouse stuff. Now, I'm going to go one step deeper, and I'm going to point out that Disney is the most successful media company in history, and they have licensed out products into an insane number of categories. If there's a category, Disney has a product in it. And so there's no more well-articulated, well-developed giant empire than Disney. And so that's the best example of like being able to protect your trademarks, exercising your trademarks in the different product categories. And then, if somebody were to try to do something in Walmart or whatever, the Disney attorneys would be calling and would be protected by the law.
Can
So-
we roll this back just a bit though, Ross?
Just for you.
A lot of this is actually the fault of Disney. Do you know all the backstory on that?
Educate me.
So originally, public domain was a different number than 95. I believe it was 50, maybe 60.
When you say 95, what do you
Years.
mean 95?
95 years from the date of initial publication.
Right.
Originally, though, this number was somewhere in the 50 to 60 year range.
Yep.
And as that number crept up, a certain corporation out of the Orlando area spread a lot of money.
Disney.
Spread a lot of money across this city called Washington, and a new law was enacted which moved that public domain number from 50 or 60 years to 95 years to protect one character and one character only. The
Now,
mouse.
okay, but here's my hot take. Okay. Are they a capitalist organization that is chasing the almighty dollar? Yes.
Yes.
God bless capitalism. Everybody
Yes.
on this podcast loves capitalism. Okay. Not a critique of capitalism. All right. But I would go so far as to say, I would humbly submit to this jury here that when copyright law was created, it had never seen intellectual property that became as global and as widespread and as commercially successful as the Disney empire. And so I think that you have to sit there and update the law to reflect the new reality. And, I've had lots of debates with comic book writers, one of which is Dennis's best friend, Mark Waid, about if I created a character and it was a hit. Let's say I created Walking Dead. All right. It's a hit. Hallelujah, my family's rich. Right. And then let's say I die, and in copyright law, there's rules about death plus. So it's death plus X number of years. Right. Now that's presumably, it's not crazy that a lot of authors pass away and their work is not popular, and it becomes popular with the generation afterwards because they're ahead of the cultural curve. And so then my daughters would benefit from that. Now, I kind of feel like, now, again, this is my hot take. I'm going to take grief for it. So paging Rich Johnston, in my opinion, I'm like, I can deed my house to my children. And at a certain point, this asset doesn't just go into public domain, right? So my question, this is for the Harvard Law Review, is why is Mickey Mouse any different? If I create The Adventures of Stupid Man and it's a giant hit, and I create a company, Stupid Man Incorporated, and I give it to my kids and I put Stupid Man in it, and Stupid Man is still popular 500 years from now, why can't my descendants keep making money off of Stupid Man?
Right.
Now, I do have a friend that is, a Harvard attorney, an expert in intellectual property, who would be schooling me on this right now. But I don't need the lecture. But
Well,
that's just my perspective.
I'm not going to lecture you other than to play the devil's advocate here. And I think
Bring it.
the original implication from close to, I think, 100, 150 years ago in U.S. common law with public domain was when the creator is dead, even though his heirs do have the right to keep making money off that, at a certain point, if the character is big enough, the public should be able to take that character and create further things. And I believe it was kind of Sherlock Holmes and
Derivative work.
Frankenstein that this was kind of based off of.
Yes.
Was like there's a public good in allowing a character that's this world renowned to
Yep.
allow the public to continue stories that the creator no longer can make.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's just the devil's advocate. And I see both sides, obviously.
Would you be happy if I told you that you just made Mark Waid's argument?
Look, I'm sure Mark Wade drinks water and breathes oxygen just like Donald Trump does.
I'd have to say that probably in my top 25 favorite things in the world is trolling Dennis Barger about Mark Wade. I got to show my cards. I got to own it.
That's why we love you.
But yeah, look, I get it. I would also make the argument that, when these original copyright rules were created, there was no such thing as film and TV, and there was no such thing as publishing sensation like Harry Potter. And the whole notion of corporation and the way corporations work and function is completely different now. Yeah. And just everything's evolved. And I'm generally in a topic of discussion, I'm a traditionalist. I'm a guy that's like, let's not update everything, all the time, because that's a great way to break things. But in this particular thing, I just think the value of intellectual property has become enormous.
Oh yeah.
And you look at Star Wars. Star Wars, like most of the folks that are on this, and I guess you get to take a timeout, McClay, but most of the folks that are on this call, we remember Star Wars showing up. And notice I didn't say Star Wars: A New Hope. It was just Star Wars, right? Yep. And there was nothing that had ever been like that. And then we saw firsthand Lucas abandon the franchise and then come back to it. And then it sustain itself and build. And I would probably make an argument, like with Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire, that like fandom brought Star Wars back almost against Lucas's will. And, at the end of the day, I just think it's a different game. And I think the notion that Star Wars, look, I'm not going to sit here and root for Disney, right? So that being said, it's like hating on the Yankees or hating on the Lakers or whatever. It's like they're great, so just because they're great and they're top of the mountain doesn't mean that you should root against them.
Yeah.
And, the brilliant move that they had of acquiring Marvel and Star Wars is just a great example of them understanding what time it is. And look at how intellectual property fueled their abilities to sustain and transform and become, stay on top.
I just don't think that anybody wants to or can connect to something done in the 30s where that coming into public domain could really make anybody a tremendous amount of money. That's why the characters have moved forward.
I disagree only from this standpoint. Sherlock Holmes has had
great example.
No less than 5 successful franchises built off of that name in the last 10 years. BBC Sherlock. Yep. Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr., The Watson Show. There's at least 2 or 3 TV shows just based off of Sherlock IP names.
Well, Dracula.
But they're not the original character. They've all been morphed.
No, you're wrong. Robert Downey Jr. is absolutely 21B Baker Street, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's with an extra little spin on it that, I don't think was that you can only get out of visual medium.
So, okay. So, but let me jump in here. Okay. Because now what we're talking about is execution, right? So this was actually something that Marv Wolfman said to me when I was like 12 that I completely did not understand. And it took me a good 10 years to figure out what the hell it was he was talking about, where he was like, anybody can have the idea, not everybody can execute. And so we've all seen the, chumpy Sherlock Holmes, the backward Sherlock Holmes, and we've just kept walking. And there's plenty of that on the market, right? But what we're talking about with RDJ and the BBC is the execution is excellent. But I'd go to the mat and say it's the same IP. It's the same intellectual property. And, okay, so now I'm going to be hot take Mr. Instigator, shocker, guy named his company, boom, right? So I'm going to say, if I was Marvel in 2035 or 2036, I would have an Avengers movie, and then the post-credit sequence would be like, knock, knock, and you'd open the door, and Batman from Detective Comics 27 is standing there, right? Now, what's interesting about, I think in particular, the rendition of Batman and Detective 27 is that you can do a visually updated version of him and not be in violation of that public domain rule. So like his costume.
Bill Finger came up with a great design. We all
Right.
agree.
Right. His costume is much closer to, has endured in a way that I think Superman's, that ass is pretty rough, right? The circus performer ass is hard to update. So I would say, that's the move I would make. And that comes down to, how much does Disney want to step on Warner Brothers?
Well, but at the same regards, that same year, a month later, in the DC movie, they open up that same door, and the Human Torch and Captain America are knocking on it.
Yeah, so you have now we're in nuclear detente, like paging Ronald Reagan, right?
Yep.
So it's like, I won't if you won't,
Right.
So that would be that, I know nothing Jon Snow, but I would make that prediction.
Yeah. And guess what? If they don't do it, the Valiant production company might.
Well,
who doesn't want to have Rai the ninja, meet up with Captain America and Superman?
Well, you
Right,
brought up
but-
something interesting is that the difference in the character isn't from the original Batman isn't much different from the Batman we have today, right? But with Superman, it is a lot different. One of his main powers. He didn't fly. That's a big deal, How do they
But
get
here's
around
the
that?
thing: there's enough stuff from that Action Comics to still make a Superman. They were using that, aside from the flight, they were using that tagline: "Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, more powerful than a locomotive." They ran that through all the Fleischer cartoons. They ran that before the 50s TV show, which is a good 20 years later. So the premise that is in Action Comics #1, hell, the 78 movie actually starts with a kid reading Action Comics #1. So it all goes, it's everything you need for a Superman to resonate with an audience, especially if DC, James Gunn is not necessarily a guaranteed hit. If DC doesn't deliver here in June, it's going to take a lot more time to keep this thing going and reboot it again before they lose it.
So I don't know if you're aware, but the reason that David Zaslav bought Warner Brothers as the head of Discovery was that they were not making Superman movies. And he was aware of the copyright and the clock running. And he thought, how is Marvel making these billion-dollar franchises and there's no billion-dollar Superman movie and franchise? So very much the playbook is 10 years of Superman and then, defend the trademarks like hell, the way you're defending Mickey Mouse. But I would respectfully disagree with you. I think the flying in Superman is so critically important. Not having his ability to fly would be a major stumbling block for me. And, look, guys, there's a lot of creative folks that can figure things out. So maybe I'm limited in my imagination, but I just have a hard time sort of processing it, especially when everybody knows Superman can fly. You will believe a man can fly.
Right. Absolutely. And we all got hit in the feels in 1978 as children. However,
except for McClay.
Yeah. However, the Tim Burton, what is his name? John Peters? The Kevin Smith script, the fabled Superman Lives, was going to do a Superman that did not fly.
Wow.
So,
and it didn't get greenlit.
It got greenlit, but then it got yanked.
It's not a movie. That's my point.
Yep. Hey, Mark. Hold on, we got some audio things. Ross, I'm gonna have you jump in and come back if that's okay. You got some echo going on. Okay, so the
I was afraid that was me. Sorry.
No. I think it's just Ross. The mark of 95 years is coming up for each character a year apart, obviously. So we're gonna see some interesting stuff going on for that soon. But that brings me to a very interesting question. Okay,
I am having a hard time.
hearing
sound
check
great,
check
Ross.
check. You sound
Audio.
great to us.
So
Yeah, you're fine now. Yeah.
Can you hear? Can you hear? Okay.
Oh no, unmute.
He's,
You gotta-
he's muted.
Yeah. Put your ear set back in, Ross.
okay.
Yeah,
Should I
perfect.
be on mute or
No,
unmute?
are you okay? You're okay now.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. Okay, so this brings to a very interesting question. And that has to do with IP leasing and how DC/Warner Brothers handles this over the next 10 years to set up for the date where it does come public domain. And that's the interesting part to me. I want to hear your thoughts on that. How do going forward, how do they start setting up to where they don't lose out a ton of money, and maybe even they can figure out a way to, still keep most of the money coming in based on these characters?
All right, here you're going to get it straight. It's a flip. Like if you don't see this coming, like Zaslav's going to sell, right? So he's going to build up the DCU underneath James Gunn, and he's going to sell the company.
Oh wow. Yeah.
I'm calling it.
Yep.
Like
Well,
it's just Thursday.
here's the other interesting thing.
It may go faster if Superman doesn't hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but everybody on this in view right now understands what an IP fixer-upper the DC universe was, right? We would all sit around and go, why can't they sync up the continuity, and why can't they make everything come together, and Joker's really good and the Batman's really good, and why wasn't this other thing as good as it could be? And, why can't they get it to sing all together? And Zaslav was saying the same thing, and he went in and bought it, and and brought in James Gunn, and here we go. And it's a put all your chips in the middle of the table, right?
The absolute universe is on fire. Most of the rest of the DC stuff, even the All In.
Yeah, but Emmett, we've
never
talked about this on the show. Absolute could sell twice what it is now and not be a blip compared to what they have rolling the dice on Superman Gunn.
Yep.
No, absolutely. It's apples and oranges.
Yeah.
They don't make a lot of money on comics because they're not doing the right thing to make a lot of money on comics. Just tell good stories. It's that simple.
But there's no comic book publisher, like pick whatever the height of comic book publishing was in your mind. Like Stan and Jack and Steve, and they're in there and they're crushing it. The margin on that is nothing with the film and the TV business.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
And meanwhile, I get back from Japan, and while I'm over there, manga is everywhere.
Okay.
But the margins on that in Japan are going to be nothing.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to get on my high horse about manga here for a second. Okay. So the Walking Dead trades follow the manga format. Spine out, numbered, clean. I know where to start. Right. I remember 10 years ago, I was in a store and this woman walked in. She was clearly a civilian. We can tell. Right. She walks up to the clerk and she says, "Where's your Walking Dead comics?" And the clerk walks her across the store and he's like, "Here's the first volume and it's $9.99." And she's like thrilled because she was ready to pay more. Right. And she's like, "Great." And she buys that, walks out the door. And it's like, there it is. That's the manga model. Like I've stood in the store. I remember when Jeff Johns was doing his Green Lantern stuff that was so great. And I remember standing in the store and I just couldn't, like I published comic books. I worked in the business for 25 years. I couldn't figure out where to start.
Yeah.
And that goes to McClay with legacy numbering. The trades need to follow that. Here's the thing. There's a big display in every manga shop, every bookshop in Japan for One Piece volume 247.
Yep.
And they don't give a shit if you are a new reader. Start at 1. If you want to jump in here, start at 247. They do not put training wheels on their product, on their IP.
So, like, to me, at the end of the day, that publishing, like, these corporations look at Marvel and DC as publishing entities. Guardians of the Galaxy is the best example where they can putter around and they can make a buck or two. Okay. So corporate profits, I know I'm being scattershot here for a second. Please indulge me. So 15 years ago, when I was a Disney licensor, I went to their presentation in Italy. And so I'm in Milan, Italy. You're behind closed doors. You get to see the things that nobody can see. Okay. And they did this huge presentation and they said, here's what consumer licensing did for Disney. Now, keep in mind, this is 15 years old. Okay. They were like, we did 36 billion in licensing. Now, they don't make anything with licensing, right? They just approve. Another company makes the whole product.
Right, sure.
So that's just taking checks. $36 million in passive income.
Oh.
Cars alone as a brand was 6 billion. And we were all little boys once. We know why Cars made so much money, right?
Yeah.
So then the number 2 company, and again, caveat 15 years ago, was Warner Brothers because of Harry Potter at 5 billion. So they were 7 times bigger than their nearest competition. And then, when you looked at Universal and Paramount, it just had this steep drop off.
Right. Sure.
Because God bless Fast and the Furious, it makes $1 billion every time it comes out. But no, I love it. But
Licensing ain't great.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So at the core of it, like, okay, I'll give you another, like, here's something from the deep vaults, like paging Rich Johnson. So this is like a story that is going to melt your brain. Okay. I couldn't believe it. I'd worked in the media business for 20 years and I couldn't believe I was experiencing it. So we had a Fox deal. We had a deal with 20th Century Fox on the feature side, and we had an office on the lot. And I got a chance to meet the president of distribution. And so it was me and him sitting in a room, and he said to me, we make so much money off of our back catalog of films that have already been made that the money that we make making new movies doesn't matter.
Huh.
Wow.
Now, I had, because I'm a big dork and I'm a super nerd, before I went to that meeting, I had scribbled on a little sheet of paper in my office what their releases were, what the public reporting of what the budget was, and then what the box office was. And I had done like a back of the envelope that they had made between $400 and $600 million theatrically. Now, you never get to see what they make in home entertainment, but basically the theatrical window, he's basically saying, and that's after the exhibitor split. That's not before the exhibitor split. So the profit of $400 to $600 million and putting out features was not, in his estimation, compared to what they made on the back catalog, was nothing. And here's what he said, and this is crazy. Okay. He said, we don't make any money off of movies, new movies. The reason that we make new movies is we're a movie company.
So
To
there'll
keep
be
feeding
old
the catalog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not even to keep feeding the catalog. It's like,
Yep.
it's like you're a movie company.
Yeah.
That is
That's
your
what
identity.
we do. Yeah.
Make movies.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you look at the next 10 years, are you going to add appreciably to this giant back catalog?
Also,
of 80,
I'm sure
90
it's,
years?
I'm sure it's also the stockholders of all those corporations want to know what you are putting out so they can invest in your future, even though your future would be more profitable if you just kept milling your catalog.
Sure. Look, Wall Street values the future over everything else.
Yes.
That's an easy rule of thumb.
Yeah.
So, but I just want to put this in context of like this versus the comic book business. And I will tell you, this is another like deep cut. I'm taking you behind the curtain. Okay. So if you make 9% in profit in publishing, you've won. Some years you're going to make 7. Okay. But if you do 9, you did a good job. If you did 11, things were crazy and you have your panties on. Okay. So publishing is a bad business. Okay. That is not a place to make a ton of money. Because
You need
it's
volume.
you need volume. Exactly.
Exactly.
If you're making
look-
9%, you have to fucking sell it out the door.
So then what? Then ultimately, if that's all the way it is, what happens?
Then why do it?
Yeah.
The
Then why
answer is
do it?
Guardians of the Galaxy. The answer is you screw around and like, just for people that don't know, because there's probably going to be some people on the stream that don't know, is like the original Guardians of the Galaxy did not have any of the characters that were featured in those movies.
Yep.
And the characters that were featured in those movies were published in a wide range of different comic books that had nothing to do with each other. And these characters were thrown together in an
Lanning.
to just generate a tie-in, right? And it worked.
Annihilation era.
Well, and you look at that first movie, and I mean, just I know you're a movie producer. You understand that cast was cheap.
Well,
in 2009,
yes,
or whenever when they
100%.
cast that.
100%. Look, they were absolutely terrified. Like there was a trailer that they put out before Guardians opened, which was basically like, we're Marvel. We're going to remind you Iron Man. We're going to remind you of Captain America. We're going to remind you of Thor. We're going to remind you of the Avengers. And then, oh, by the way, we did all these big hits, and here comes Guardians of the Galaxy.
I think it was just the 15th anniversary of that release, because one of my feed posts from when that movie came out, I literally walking out of a sneak preview, and I posted this. I'm like, does DC know they just had Superman get beat by a talking raccoon and a talking tree?
But no one could see that at the Fox lot with with the feature, the vice presidents, the presidents, the chairs of the company. They looked at that and they were like, I don't have any idea. Yeah. And I would literally sit in meetings and I would say, I've been to San Diego Comic-Con every year since 1992. And I will tell you, for the past 5 years, what I've seen is cute things kicking ass is a trend.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And we can talk about why, right? There's a lot of girls that are little, that are tough, that identify with Rocket. There's a lot of dudes that are not 6'2" that identify with Rocket, right? And it's like that trend of cute things kicking ass was...
And it's about to come to fruition with Lilo and Stitch coming out live action.
Yeah.
I think that movie's going to be a monster.
I agree. That is a completely overlooked. People do not understand what pull that original film has. Like my kids are like 10 and 12, and there's a huge catalog of Disney stuff that they don't know, they don't care, and they love Lilo and Stitch.
Yep.
Hey, Ross, I want to ask you that after listening to all this, do you know about Walking Dead Air Cell that came out with Walking Dead? How did that happen?
Oh, okay. So if you don't protect your trademark and your copyright, then there's a certain amount of time when it lapses. And what's clear to me is that, now we're going to get real deep dive, right? Okay. So Aircell, okay. So Aircell was independent. Pardon?
Men in Black, the original.
Yep. They were independent. They ran into financial trouble. Scott Rosenberg, who was backing Malibu Comics, basically took over their finances, kept them in business, and then sold Malibu to Marvel. So my prediction would be that went in. Yeah, there we go. That went into the giant slush pile of independent comic books that Marvel acquired when they bought Malibu. Who knows what that contract looks like, by the way? Like the other part of it is, those contracts back then in the late 80s probably had Swiss cheese holes in them. And a Disney IP attorney would be like, I can't litigate on this. So,
well, I'll give you a little added bonus to that. I was Gary Reed's mentor, or Gary Reed was my mentor, and he owned a little license called Dead World.
Right.
And Dead World
Great comic.
at the
Yes,
time,
Caliber, right? Caliber.
Caliber, yes, yep, right there.
Dude,
At
McClay.
the time that
Yeah.
at the time that The Walking Dead came out,
Wow.
in the first, I believe, when they just started talking about TV, one of the diehard Walking Dead or Dead World fans was reading Walking Dead, and he just kind of made a list. Oh, this is similar. Oh, this is similar. Oh, this is similar. And when the Walking Dead TV show came out, somebody made a YouTube video. I don't know if it's still out there. And so Gary was like, Walking Dead, yeah. Somebody sent me a list of all the similarities. And as everybody knows, Kirkman and Tony Moore both worked around comic shops when they were coming up. So I don't know anybody who didn't know Dead World was out in the 80s and early 90s. And Kirkman says he's never read a zombie comic book, so we'll take him at his word. But the amount of similarities, Gary called the lawyer, and it was like, if you've got this much money, we can go to war. And he was like, yeah, it's not worth it. Let him have it. That's fine. He kept making Dead World comics, and he kept waiting for the day that he was going to get sued by Walking Dead for making the katana wielding character that he had created, and the all the different, like, they covered each other in guts and blood to avoid the zombies. Little things like that all ended up in the show and in the comic books. He was just like, it's not worth it. The battle that you have to do, I mean, just the battle between Tony and Robert didn't really prove anything. What contributions did Tony really make to the project? Well, Robert says it's one thing and Tony says it's another, and guess what? Robert got the contract. So going to battle legally, you've got to just be full scorched earth, or you're not going to come out on the other end profitable.
Yeah. It again, the juice is the juice worth the squeeze, or that's what the saying is. Back to the IP licensing thing, I want to reach back to that again, because we see something going on with Hasbro right now, where Hasbro has started leasing out their IPs for other toy companies to make the toys, Transformers and stuff like that.
Has it actually started?
Super 7's been making G.I. Joe figures for 4 years, 5 years now.
Yeah. So, and they're going to do that with all their IPs, from what I hear. There's a really good YouTuber that follows this whole thing that's going on with them right now, and that's their plan moving forward, right? So if that's the case, do we see Warner Brothers doing that at all anytime soon with their properties for the publishing rights in the comics? Are we going to see a Batman Dark Horse series? Are we could we see basically Warner Brothers say, hey, anybody that wants to write a Batman story, contact us. We have a certain amount that you pay for a 4-part series, a 10-part series, whatever. And then they can just write it. It doesn't have to be a crossover. Is that something that we could see?
Look, my only perspective, what do I know? I don't work at DC. I never have. Right. But my perspective would be loss of control is an issue. Right. So what these media companies want, let me back up and say the goals are different. Okay. So Hasbro has Transformers, and they have a bunch of product categories like the one that Super 7 is in that Hasbro doesn't want to work in. It's not worth their time and energy, or they don't have the staff, or they don't have the will or the interest, or the CEO's focused on different things with a corporate strategy. And so it's a Tom Sawyer, would you please paint this fence for me? Right? So Super 7 wants to write me a check for toys that I don't want to make, and they're going to spend all this time pushing those toys. Great. Done. I'm in. Okay. Now, for Marvel and DC, what they're looking for is a development of new original characters like Deadpool, or Squirrel Girl, or fill in the blank, whoever's come since the originals.
Harley Quinn.
Harley Quinn. What's the Devil Dinosaur is a great example, right?
Yeah.
That new version of Devil Dinosaur was big with my 12-year-old. Okay, so that's a major cartoon that she grew up with. I mean, we have the soundtrack, and so that is giving you new intellectual property that you can then exploit down the road, and having control over that. Like, if I license Batman, okay, I don't want to give you new anything, right? I'm paying money for Batman. I'm putting Batman out, right? I'm not experimenting. I'm not screwing around. I'm not trying to launch new characters. I don't care about any of that. So to me, it's like what it's about is the corporate goals are different. And so Hasbro's not focusing on making new Transformers robots or developing more intellectual property. They feel like they have one of the great, the poker term is the nuts, right? They got pocket aces, right?
It's actually, but hold on a second. It's actually a IP that they license from Japan as it is, because that all comes from Takara's Microman.
It's just smart business. You and I are Micronauts fans, so we know these things.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Before you leave, I'm not saying you have to, but
he's showing me the door.
Yeah, no. You can stay as long as you want, but can you give us 2 minutes on what you learned from the diamond thing?
Oh yeah, that'd be great to hear that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
2 minutes from your head of what you learned from it.
I'm going to get in so much trouble.
Not as much trouble as this show got into.
It's
Wait,
never
hold on.
happened in
Hold
this
on.
show before.
Hey, hold on. You said you're going to get in trouble. So 1 second.
Yeah.
Yo, is this
Valuable commodity I know of is information. Wouldn't you agree?
All right, let's get into it.
Yep.
So it's over. It's over. And what I mean by that is I can't launch Boom today. So in the previous monopoly that everyone decried, okay, there was one catalog, and if you got in the back of the catalog, you could be discovered because they had to order Marvel and they had to order DC. And so they could flip through and see if there were some other things in there, which all of you have done. And it gave us Bone. It gave us Boom, right? It gave us IDW, Dynamite. But if I'm going to launch, in particular with Boom, I launched with 2 monthlies. I launched with Zombie Tales and Hero Squared. They were selling like 7,500 copies each, which is no volume. Right? I can't walk in the door to Lunar or to Penguin Random House and say, I'm going to sell 15,000 copies of between 2 comics a month. They're going to be like, it's not worth the pack and pull. It's not worth the data entry for me to keep track of your account. Like, I don't care. Get out of here. When you grow up, give me a call. Right? And so part of the deal with the devil that was made with the monopoly at Diamond was that they were going to be a benevolent dictator and they were going to allow startups like Boom, Dynamite, and IDW to get into the back of the catalog. And, there was no reason, there's no business reason to carry all those independent comics in the back of the Diamond catalog. The reason they carried those was to defray all of the grumbling about the monopoly. And you see in the new acquisition of Diamond that they're not going to be a comic book distributor, right? It's a terrible business, low margins, and the volume's not there. They see that they bought a toy company, right? And so collectibles have better margins, and so it's over.
Wow.
Right?
We need another 10,000 comic shops to get any kind of volume.
Yeah. So it's done. And here's the thing, like, let me just be this guy for a second. I heard so much complaints about Diamond in the 19 years that I ran Boom. from retailers, and it's over now, and everybody misses Diamond. Or Steve Jeppy. Look, Steve's fine, right? He owns his his sports franchises, and he did very well. And he, he's a friend of mine, great guy, always been terrific to me. I have nothing but positive things to say. But it's the end of an era. And I don't think, when I look at the conversation online, I don't think people understand.
No.
Like, it's done. And let me just say this, and now I'm really going to get in trouble. Okay. So I think it will make the business more profitable. All those pull-in packs that you guys put up, give it to me, McClay. See, all those pull-in packs where you guys, I don't know that y'all are doing this. I would imagine, Emmett, I don't know you that well, but I would imagine Jesse and Dennis dodged this bullet a long time ago, which is the onesie, twosies, threesies, right? Is like Hibbs has done a good job online laying out how that's a profit killer, right? And it's not worth the space in the store.
Well,
that's gone.
To kind of sum up what you're saying for the audience.
Yep.
If us as stores needed to reorder 2 Boom comics, 2 DC comics, and 1 Dynamite comic, that's 5 comic books. The smallest you could put that into would be about a $12 Diamond box UPS shipped. You're going to lose your ass. So you would have to put in, okay, you know what? Throw in 2 of the trade paperbacks that I don't really need, but I'll buy them anyway. You'd have to get your order up to $100 so that the shipping would be $25 and you could absorb that $25 shipping across that. But sadly,
I never direct ship. Never direct ship. Just send it with my next order.
Yeah.
But that's the way you got around that. But we're still overpaying for shipping. So.
Right, exactly. But the only way you could offset that was to create more orders. And but the thing is retailers aren't always that smart. And I would hear of retailers complaining that they ordered 5 books and it cost them $20 shipping. It's like, yeah, you don't do that.
Pay attention. But even moreover, I would go further and I would say, if you opened a store, like, I'm going to speak out of turn. My friend Car D'Angelo, who opened Earth 2, Car started Earth 2 just a little bit before I started Boom, and we're both in LA, right? And so I remember really clearly his goal was to be a full service comic shop. And he was going to take pride and he was going to carry everything, right? And he hit a wall within like 3 to 5 years where it's like, I can't carry everything.
Right.
Because it's not worth me like Dead World. It's like there's only 3 people in the shop that are going to read Dead World. And it's better to just lose the readership than to have the wall rack space taken up by 3 copies. Right. And so the big secret that many retailers don't understand, like you're looking at this is the Boom American Library Association booth setup. And those racks in the back, what I used to always harangue the staff with is that we are paying such a ridiculous amount of money to be at that show, and every single square inch is valuable and shows something that has got to be a fastball that sells, that builds the company. Like, it's a per square inch business.
Right.
Like these racks that you have, they should be turning product.
Right.
Right. So why did comic books leave the mainstream drugstores in the 1980s? Because you could take a rotating rack of comics and you could put sunglasses on it, and it would be $1.99 or $2.99 plastic sunglasses, and they turn and sell better than a $1 comic. And so at the end of the day, it's about space and it's about what is turning and what's selling.
Well,
so
I think then I agree with you, because I think where we're heading is a good thing, right? The internet is a place where we could put all this stuff up here and not have that problem, right? And what I mean by that is
Yes.
We could have content creators on YouTube, like the show you're watching now, get excited about a product or an IP or a new thing and tell everybody about it. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Now this is where you see it, rather than walking through the 7-Eleven and seeing it before you cash out. And you're able to go and buy that stuff. You know, I'll have it set up where if I talk about a product, I could say, okay, it's in the description now for you to buy if you want. And you can just click it. And there is no loss in money taking up space for that product on the internet, so to say, right?
And so there's an internet shelf capacity. Excuse me, there's an infinite shelf capacity with the internet. So the thing that I would always say to the independents that people would get mad at me at conventions to say is like, I don't understand if you have an independent comic book, I don't understand why you're trying to go through Diamond to go into comic shops. It's ego. Like, you want to create a comic book that is in your local store, and you want to walk in that store and you want to see it on the shelf. Because the truth of the matter is you're paying, you're selling it at wholesale, which is a bad discount, right? I love Kickstarter. That's no secret. You saw what I did with Kickstarter at Boom, right? And what do these books sell for on Kickstarter? Is like $20 an issue, right? And then the variant is like 25 or 30. And it's like, why aren't you running to Kickstarter? And oh, by the way, you're going to get an email list of everybody that participated in the Kickstarter. Like, there's nothing more valuable. You have a direct connection to your fans. And so to me, it's like all of these little Diamond, the upper echelon of Diamond had a term which they would call little Jimmies, right? These small self-publishers, small publishers. To me, it's like, go straight to Kickstarter. You're going to be more profitable. You're going to have a better relationship that if you put energy into it and focus. And
Different
it's a
customer though.
Well, that's what that
Totally different
that
customer.
kid Ryan Brown did with God Hates Astronauts.
Right.
He had a successful Kickstarter, then he sub-distributed through Image to get into comic book stores, and then he came up with IPs that he wanted to test out in the comic book store rather than dedicate the time to another Kickstarter, and save Kickstarter for his definite home run campaigns.
Which is very interesting because one of the hottest properties in comic books right now is doing this. It did the same thing, and is doing the same thing, and that's the Monsters, the Mark Spears Monsters stuff. You know, so I think what is very interesting is a lot of people expected this to be like when Ross said it's over, to be over comics. No, that's not what we're saying. The way, the path has changed, and the way things are done have changed, and it hasn't been the gradual thing that happens over 20 years like it has in the past. It happened over 5 years, you know. So it's very interesting, and I think that one of the things that we've also been saying on this show for a long time now is, it doesn't mean that if you're a small indie creator that you can't do this. No, you can do it. It's just going to take a little bit of more effort maybe until something else changes to make it easier. But you can still do it, and it's probably better for you in the long run if it blows up.
Profitable.
Yeah, it'll be more profitable for you.
What's the thing everybody says that comes into a comic shop? Oh, comics are $4.99. But then there's people on Kickstarter, like Ross just said, paying $20 and $25 a book. There's different customers.
What is important to you, Ross? Knowledge, not to you, but to someone new. Knowledge of business or knowledge of selling comics?
If you're publishing comics, there's nothing more valuable than knowledge of selling comics.
Okay.
I got a question for you on the IP before we lose you.
All right.
So I've had a lot of comic creator friends, and they've worked for the big two. This only applies for DC, mind you. DC has a very decent pay structure if you create a new character and it makes money. Except for when you make a derivative of a character that already existed. You're not compensated the same because as you take this character and slowly change it over time, you're just a derivative creation of the original character. how fast before that insignificant derivation in DC characters IPs that get milled by other people do you think the derivation, the deviation is going to be the most important thing to DC lawyers?
Well, that's where it's a shame we're missing Paul Levitz, right?
Yeah.
Because so the best example of this is that Sandman was a golden age hit back in the 40s, and then had a revival in the early 70s that completely didn't work. And then Neil Gaiman basically uses the name only and has a massive hit. And Neil was smart enough to say, hey, I want to keep going with this, but I kind of feel like I'm getting screwed here because I have an original idea. And Paul was running the business of the company, and Paul said, yeah. And so we're going to create a deal for you that's going to incentivize you to keep working. I'm not sure that the companies right now, and we can blame Warner Brothers Discovery or we can blame Disney. Certainly everybody reports up, right? So are they going to value creators adding something that lasts? Deadpool's a very interesting case. I side with Rob. Rob says, my idea was Spider-Man meets Boba Fett. If you go back and read Fabian Niciez's dialogue, he's funny. That's not to take anything away from Joe Kelly. That's not to take anything away from Ed McGuinness. Joe Kelly's a friend. Ed McGuinness worked for me briefly. I'm a huge Ed McGuinness fan, but I get the original premise. I get how Joe made Deadpool funnier, and McGuinness's visual execution was more cartoony and sort of pushed that concept forward, and they contributed to it. But at the same time, Deadpool was a supporting character, and I think Kelly and McGuinness did things to make him a lead in his own ongoing series.
Yep.
And there are certain choices you make creatively to push that concept forward. And I haven't talked to Joe Kelly. Maybe he believes that he's the one that gave the comedic aspect to Deadpool.
He used to be pretty humble about it. Like, oh no, I just had my twist on it. Yeah.
He's generally speaking, I've found him to be a really good dude.
Yeah.
So, are there going to be different ideas that are added? Yes. Through the years, are you going to reshape? I mean, we talked about Superman, right? And whoever added Flight deserves a big chunk of Superman royalties.
Yeah.
Very much a distinctive quality of the character. But at the same time, I could see how they'd want guardrails on doing knockoffs of Superman or Batman, right? It's like Batman with the name changed, and now, give me a windfall of royalties. It's like, I get it. It's one of the things I love about Liefeld is he's very clear that when he found out about the creator incentive contracts at Marvel, he leaned into it and came up with a bunch of original characters because he felt that the deal was good.
Yeah.
And that he knew Marvel was powerful and it could change his life. And he was at the right place at the right time with the right talent and crushed it. Like his story about, what he was going through personally with his dad in a coma and how he was, delivering pizzas, and like, here's this guy that comes out of nowhere and just, makes it happen. It's totally inspiring. Good on him, but it's like, at the end of the day, I think if Marvel and DC, if they are trying to find the next Deadpool, they should create a financial system that rewards them.
Yep.
Just makes sense. It's not a lot of money. It's life-changing money to the creator. It's nothing to these media companies.
Right. And
other than the
if like
Yes.
writers, they're holding stuff. Right?
Yes.
They're not going to use their best idea if they're getting
Yes.
and it's pennies.
What Mark Miller's Wanted was a pitch for Secret Society of Supervillains.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I mean, The Watchmen was just Alan's attempt to use the Carlton cast of characters as an introduction.
Great example.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, Ross, you always have a seat on the show anytime, and we appreciate you hanging out with us tonight, man.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You're one of the good guys, and we love you, brother.
And what you've done
Great.
for comics, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Emmett. Great to make your acquaintance. These other three are a bunch of suspect pirates in my book.
Okay, I have one last
That's why I
question.
like them.
Yeah.
I have one last question before Ross.
Right.
Ross, 1992 to
Yes.
2024, every San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Now you've got a San Diego Comic-Con that you don't have any horse in the race. Are we going to see you there?
I have a 10-year-old that wants to go.
Yep.
So
It changes everything, my brother. It
Yep.
changes everything.
Yep. So I will be hunting Pokemon cards at the very worst place to buy Pokemon cards. Right? The Pokemon cards are never more expensive than they are at San Diego
Yeah,
Comic.
it's
You,
crazy.
you know who the Pokemon King is, right?
I thought you're the
Ouch.
pin king, Dennis. You're the
I'm
king of
I'm
everything.
All sorts of kings.
Ross,
brother.
thank you so
Send
much.
me a list, Ross.
Okay.
I'll hook
Appreciate
up
you, brother.
with Pokemon.
Talk to
Thank
you
you,
soon.
brother.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks, y'all.
One of the good guys, you guys.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I think what happens is when you're in this business, there are very few people you can, we're in Unfiltered, so I guess I could say this, that you can really look at, shake their hand, and know you're going to get it straight.
Yep.
Straight down the middle, and there then be the person that says, what can I do to help you? And Ross has done a very, very good job of being on the side of the retailer almost every single time, especially during the dark times. I will tell you, Ross has done a tremendous, tremendous job in this industry and continues to do it. So,
Yeah.
Well, and I'll
amen.
say, before I met Ross, when he talks about that, being in the back of the Diamond catalog was an actual opportunity to get to retailers. I owned both of his first books from when I initially ordered them from him. So Zombie Tales and Hero Square. And when I was talking to him later and I got to know him, I asked him what those, what was the first book you published? And I was like, oh, dude, I have those. Hold on a second. And I went and grabbed them and I'm like, these were your first two books? And he's like, yeah, those are, you actually bought those out of the Diamond catalog? Those were my first books. And that was just a great connection between us because I had no idea who Ross was when I bought those two books, but he sold me.
yeah. The funny thing is, and I might be off a little bit here, but they had asked me, hey, what is this store exclusive thing? And I explained it to them and they said, well, we're then being Phoenix Con. Can we do 3 of those with you? I go, absolutely. So I get to the con and I'm like, cool. I'm promoting these 3 books, right? So I walk over to the table. They got them on the table. I'm like, yeah, I'm here to get my exclusives. What exclusives? Well, aren't you guys doing Just James Comics exclusives? Oh, absolutely. But that's for us to sell. And then I look, they never even put my logo on them. I'm like, what the hell, guys?
Well, and they did one of my first thank you variants for
Yeah.
Imagine Agents.
Yeah. So
That was just some nothing book, but they made 100 copies of it for me, and we gave it out as a thank you gift. And I think it's like $100 comic book now.
So we were talking about Hasbro licensing off IPs. Here's a list of IPs that they're licensing off to different companies. Little Pet Shop has been licensed off to Basic Fun for toy production. Dungeons and Dragons has been licensed off to Games Global. Transformers has been licensed off to Way Studios for statues. Dungeons and Dragons or D&D has been licensed off to Mythical Meats for snack sticks. Hasbro has licensed off Clue, Ouija board, and Scrabble to Mano's Wine for alcoholic beverages. They've licensed off Koosh toys to Arby's for kids meal promotions. My Little Pony to Noah Coffee for themed campaigns. Nerf to Sonic for kids meal promotions. G.I. Joe and Power Rangers, of course, to Mezco and Super 7. And McFarlane toys for Page Punchers figures. They licensed off stuff to McFarlane for Page Puncher figures. So I mean, there is all kinds of.
But currently they're still going to make toys. The rumor is they're going to stop making them and license it all out, like Converse does. Converse is a very successful company that makes shit. They just license the Converse name. Now, when you got to send them the sneaker, and they approve it. That like, oh yeah, as long as you make it like this,
right? Exactly.
The actual pinnacle of that was a brand called Craftsman Tool, and we're all old enough to remember our grandparents talking about how Craftsman tools were the greatest tool you could ever buy. Never
lifelong.
Buy that cheap,
Lifelong.
Yeah.
Until Sears went bankrupt, got bought by Kmart, and Kmart sold the Craftsman name to some Mexican knockoff company, Chinese knockoff company, and then Craftsman tools were just a piece of crap that you didn't want to buy.
Yeah. Well, when I was in brown goods, that happened a lot when I was in the 90s, where a lot of really good companies, American companies like Emerson and I think Westinghouse, their names got licensed off to foreign countries and other makers. And so they could, because brand loyalty is a big thing. Like Craftsman still had a lot of brand loyalty. So they still, they're still doing okay with the Craftsman tools because people recognize the name.
Yeah, but they don't have the lifelong guarantee, and they do break.
They're not the same quality.
Yeah.
And listen, when I used to do the flea market back in the early 90s as my second hustle, there was a guy who used to go around and buy all the broken Craftsman tools. And then he would go to Sears and get replacements, and he'd be at the flea market next week. Selling them a brand new tool.
Shout out to Alex for the $10 super chat. He says, "Great show, everyone. Love the conversation. Appreciate you, brother."
So when I used to be in the shoe business, they would fly me to Milan and Florence and all these places to buy shoes. And when you go into the factories, you sign these affidavits that you can't discuss what you see. And you're like, they're just making shoes, right? What the hell do I care, right? So I'd sign it. And you'd be and I'm then paraphrase here. I'm not going to say I was in the Ferragamo warehouse, but I could have been in the Ferragamo warehouse. So you walk in, you sign all this paper, and you're seeing this thing of shoes going down. And then it hits this like fork in the road, and this set goes this way, and this set goes this way. And you're like, well, so what is that? Well, the ones that go to the right go to Ferragamo, and those are like $600. And the ones that go to the left are the Calvin Kleins that are $90. But it's the same freaking shoe. It is freaking amazing what happens when you do licensing in these warehouses. Not much changes other than that label maker that just says stamp, stamp, stamp. So what you learn, I think, is the same thing in comics. Is listen, I'll let me back up here. The 9% has thrown me off tremendously. To think that 9% is successful in the comic book publishing business.
It just goes to show you. I didn't want to say it when Ross was here, and I'd say it to his face, but I just didn't want to bring the conversation down. That shows you what a house of cards this industry has been sitting on. If a fluctuation of 2%, a 7% to a 9% swing is the difference between looking for a new job and doing another year of this, and everything is a microcosm down from that. That's why the stores are failing. That's why Diamond failed. There's not enough margins because we're doing something wrong.
Amen.
Doing a lot of things wrong.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, speaking of that,
I'm doing great.
Speaking of doing things wrong, let's talk about Street Date in the comic book industry. Very interesting thing happened this last week with the amazing new Battle Beast blind bags that Skybound put out, which just a great job on Skybound's end. What a great idea. The way it looked, the comics that were inside, the buy-in price for retailers. They will be evergreen product for as long as they're around, unopened. People will be wanting to open them for years to come, and they're cheap enough to where you could do all that. It was just such a great idea, but there was a little bit of a fork in the road, or a little bit of a hiccup, so to say, and that has to do with street date. And for those of you guys that don't know, street date refers to the date a comic book is available to be sold. Is that correct, you guys?
Right. There's actually, you're missing a step. So it's FOC that creates the street date.
Initial.
Yeah, initial street date. Right.
No. Initial order.
Yeah,
sets the
initial
street
orders
date.
for the FOC. Yeah.
FOC is the final adjustment to that street
Right.
date.
Yeah, but now that Diamond's gone, there's no initial. It's
Yeah.
only FOC.
It's up to the industry.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you try to order 2 months in advance from Lunar, there's nothing there.
Right.
And the street date is when it's officially available for purchase, right?
Right.
Per the distributor or per the publisher?
Publisher, because
Well,
Part of the publisher.
Lunar DC had moved to Tuesdays. They're back to Wednesdays now, but
There's a little bit of a history lesson. I want to give it. It's only going to take about 2 minutes. So street date was always Wednesday.
Right.
20 years ago, it was a Wednesday street date, and you got your boxes Wednesday morning. Then Diamond figured out a way to get the books out an extra day
Tuesday.
early.
Yeah.
That allowed retailers, I think it was about 10 years ago, that allowed.
we paid for that to get Tuesday.
Hold on, I'm
delivered.
going to get to that because that's what I was going to get to.
Yeah.
Okay, so they said, hey guys, if you pay us $4 a week, we'll get you your books on Tuesday. That gives you an extra day to process them and have them out. But that $4 is going to go into a kitty, and we're going to hire a professional purchasing, what did they call them? Secret shopper
Secret
program.
shopper.
Yep.
And you're going to get secret shopped twice a year to make sure you're not selling them on Tuesdays. Now, you get a report from this. I actually have emails in my email of
I
those
got all
secret
mine too. Yep.
Yeah. However, this is the funny part. 5 years ago, when DC went to Lunar, and then Marvel started making plans to go, I was still getting charged that $4 for that early delivery. I hadn't been secret shopped in years. And I contacted Diamond. I was like, hey guys, you collected $200 a year from me for the last, I think it was 2 or 3 years. You haven't secret shopped me once. When was the last time I was secret shopped?
Yeah.
And they were like,
We needed that for profit.
and it was literally 3 years since I had been secret shopped, and they owed. I said, guys, you owe me $600.
Yeah.
The agreement was I give you $4 and you secret shop me twice a year. I love those reports. To me, those reports were worth $200.
Yeah. Yeah, I was always confused about their TV.
But hold on, and just when I brought that up to them, that I'm owed $600 for not being secret shopped as part of our agreement. They stopped charging that $4 a week, but I never saw my $600.
Oh yeah, sure. But you would get reports like, oh, they didn't have TV on. They didn't have enough drinks. What does that have to do with my freaking new issues?
I know. Well, here's the best part. See, those secret shopper programs are supposed to give a report of the store, not to test whether you're selling product off of street date or not. So they were asked to get 2 books that were not street dated.
Yep.
And if they didn't find those 2 books, they weren't told to buy anything else. So we weren't even getting the benefit of them purchasing something with their secret shopper money.
Yep. So the birth of early shipping, FOCs, street dates. But you know all this.
Yeah,
when you're
because it's in your
placing-
contract, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's in your
Lunar's
contract.
really early now. For
Yeah.
me, Lunar's Thursday the week before.
So people
Right.
don't realize that the street date, is a contractual obligation
Yes.
between you and who?
The publisher.
The publisher and the distributor.
And when is that contractual obligation set? Do you sign something saying that you?
The second you start with Lunar, Penguin, you are agreeing to street dates.
Their terms of service.
This terms of service. You're going to see street dates. This is when the product comes out. So there's no excuse you can ever get that says, well, they didn't let me know the street date. It's when you place your order, it shows your street date. And technically everything you're buying at that time, I would say almost 90% of it is the same street date, unless it's
the point of street dates is that everything hits the street on the same day.
Right.
Nobody gets an advantage.
Nobody gets an advantage.
Yep.
So if Emmett's guy up the road from Emmett has the same comics that Emmett has, and I remember when they did this, Midtown Comics had some location near a train stop that they were going to open at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
And the standard open time was considered 10 a.m. for comic shops. Yep. And everybody was in a tizzy because, well, Midtown gets to sell them 2 hours early. Yep. There's 20 other stores in New York. How are they able to do this? And I think they just said it's Midtown. They buy way more than you. Fuck you.
Exactly.
But the point is street date is everybody is even. Nobody has an advantage. Not even this guy over here that would open at midnight.
Yep.
To sell comics.
But I always got approved to do midnight releases, so just FYI. So
okay.
My Little Pony approved it. Whoever My Little Pony was back in the day, and Walking Dead 100 approved it. But the notion is you can't use that as an excuse you didn't know. That's, I think, the whole point of the conversation. Anybody that says, I didn't know. You know what? They didn't remind me that this book comes out tomorrow.
And that's what is happening right now. So for those of you guys that don't understand why we're bringing this up, these Battle Beast blind bags came out. They got sent. Usually, the publishers or the distributor will send books early to stores for display purposes, to get ready to go through and put in bags and boards, or to put in box, box holders, stuff like that. But you can't sell it until that time. You can have it. You can't sell it until that time. And the thing about the blind bags for Battle Beast, which was interesting, is Skybound really wanted to have that excitement of, people seeing what's in these things at the shops. The excitement of, oh, what did you get? What did you get? What did you get? That type of thing. That's always been very important for Skybound. And I remember it back in the day when Walking Dead was out. That was the whole reason about going to, you made sure you went to the comic shop.
That was, but if you remember, spoiler alert, chat, don't yell at me. Walking Dead 100 was the first midnight release for Image. And they wanted that because the content of that book, and that book only, was such a game changer. Not just in terms of anniversary issue, but what happens on the final page.
Yep.
Was everyone had to have the exact first shot at being able to sell it nationwide. And I believe it was the Wednesday before San Diego, too, wasn't it?
Yep, exactly.
So, and the content was Glenn gets his head smashed in by Negan. Spoiler alert. But they knew through the Walking Dead community, and Facebook is starting at this time, social media is exploding. They knew one person reads that before everybody else, and it's going to ruin the surprise for everyone.
Yep. Yeah, and it was crazy. I mean, it was we literally, I think there was 14 covers, 15 covers. I actually have a video of that night too. And we're expecting 5 people to come, right, at midnight. Who's then come at midnight to get one title? And literally we had probably over 100 people show up. And because it was a cult thing also that I could be part of this. I think the Battle Beast thing is very tricky, right? Because retail is what on that, Brian?
$3.99.
$3.99.
Yeah, $3.99. Yeah,
$3.99. That's retail.
it's either $3.99 or $4.99.
Yeah, I think it's $5. I'm pretty sure it's $5.
You're right.
Yeah, it's $5. So if you go into a comic book store, they will have that book for it. They should have that book for you for $5.
$4.99. Yes.
Yeah, $4.99. So everybody paying this $25, $30,
Oh,
$40.
$3.99.
High.
$3.99. Funhouse and
$3.99.
Timothy Brandt. It's $3.99.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Yeah, $3.99. So
Just
$3.99. Yeah, you're buying it a week early for $25. And by the time that person ships it to you, you're not going to get it till Wednesday anyways. Right? So I don't get it and I don't understand it.
FOMO.
Yeah, it's FOMO, but there is I know people always laugh when I say this. There is a respect value that you have for your fellow retailers.
Should.
And you should have those values, but I don't think those values exist in about 25% of the retailer market because they are in a different platform than that retailer who is then being in his store Wednesday morning. He's selling other books to other people. And that's a shame.
We go back to the whole thing that started this episode talking about how it's changed so drastically.
Yeah.
Now it's changed so drastically that a lot of the new retailers don't take it from that point of view of an old school mentality. It's excitement now. It's we want it now. It's quick, fast, whatnot. eBay Live, IG sales. Show me what it is now. I want to go spoil the movie for myself. And that's just the way it is nowadays. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the future because of this. And what I mean by that is how Lunar is going to deal with this. Are they going to, because there are consequences for breaking street date. And I don't know how harsh those consequences have been in the past, but if there's no consequences for doing it, then it's going to continue.
Well, can I just say one thing, though? I do think Lunar has a lot to explain with their choices of how they did this. Once again, street date is to keep everybody even and level playing field.
Yep. Fair competition.
Fair competition. The fact that they didn't ship the West Coast books first to make sure that extra period of time to get them out to the West Coast, and the fact that only Midwest and East Coast stores received these instantaneously, while West Coast was like, what the hell? Why can't I get $25 a book? It causes an unfair advantage to the people who got them versus who didn't.
Well,
I think there's a UPS schedule where you could easily make sure everyone still gets them on the same day.
Oh, yeah, by far.
But all this constant taking advantage is choking the golden goose.
It is.
We're down
Absolutely.
to 1,200 stores because this constant souring of collectors, souring of readers. I can't.
Well, and I've said it too. I think there's 1,200 stores, but I don't know there's 1,200 Lunar accounts.
There's
Well,
probably more.
Right.
I think there's less.
Oh, yeah, but there's 1,200 retailer accounts, but how many online accounts do they have?
Oh,
That's the online accounts are the guys that are a little bit more entitled.
Or the club accounts, or
Right,
the
club
garage
and all
accounts.
that. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I'm not a store, so I don't open up on Wednesday at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock. And so this is the way I'm doing it. I think what happens is when people come out and say, I don't care what it is, and F this and F that, and I can't be told when I sell something. Yes, you can be told when you sell something because that's what you agree to.
Yeah.
And I
That's
think
why you're allowed to buy wholesale, period.
Well, can
Yeah.
you imagine
story.
if like Skybound had spent $1 million on some crazy marketing campaign that they weren't going to start until street date or a couple days before street date,
Whatever.
and these guys are just ruining that marketing campaign? Like that would be a big issue. So there's reasons to other than, like you said, having respect not only for your peers but also for that golden goose that's going to continue to give you the ability to buy your product, right? If Lunar shuts you down, if we talked about this not too long ago with the whole Diamond fiasco, where if Lunar and Penguin find out that you owe Diamond, you as a retailer owe Diamond $100,000, you don't think that they're going to put a little check mark by your name and go, keep an eye on this guy? It's the same thing with the street date stuff. Lunar's going to say, oh, here's the guys that we know were breaking street date. And not only were they breaking it, they were telling us, that our product is shitty and that, whatever. They're going to cut those people off, or they're not going to give them what the other people get. It's just like no shirt, no shoes. We could say we don't want to give it to you for whatever reason we want. But this is one of the main reasons.
Except for the 9%. If you cut 100 stores out of 1,200 accounts, or let's just call it 120, there goes 10% of that 9%, which is probably closer to like the 2% that makes you a failure at 7%.
Right. Yeah, and again, I think this it doesn't matter. I guess let me go backwards here. If you sell your book at retail at $4 and the people on Whatnot are selling them for $25, that's a customer making that decision. Mm-hmm. But that customer isn't being informed that, oh, by the way, on Wednesdays you can get this at a retail store for $4.
Well, that's partially Image's responsibility to get that word out there. But I also think, and I mentioned to you guys in the pre-show, how many of those people paying $25 thought they were getting a Clutch Battle Beast pack,
right,
and not a regular Image 1 of 400,000 Battle Beast pack?
Say that again.
So, people buying these packs for $25. Do you think it's at all possible that they thought they were going to get a chance to get a sketch from Big Clutch, Image number 1, what Jesse's holding up? How many people who paid $25 on Whatnot thought they were actually buying what Jesse held up and not what Lunar sent out?
Yeah.
I would think a couple of them probably paid thinking they were going to get a chance at a sketch or something like that because they were not informed.
See, Smokey Collect says that. He says, I thought that what was in these blind bags was something along the lines of what Clutch was pushing. Well, let me ask you something. Yep. If that's the case, do you think they're really going to be $4.99 a pack or $3.99 a pack?
Well, I think
they had sketches. They had the sketches in the 15th anniversary of Walking Dead.
Yeah,
but they weren't $3.99 a piece.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. They were $4.99.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
The Harley Quinn black bags were $4.99.
But that was Kirkman had money to burn. He could just throw money around back then.
He still has money to burn.
Yep.
He has to sell 400,000 blind bags to pay his rent.
Right. Well, I think a couple of shows had mentioned they've already got their money, so why do they care what goes on now? They've already
because the next thing might fail if they don't sustain this thing as the event that it should have been.
No sketch covers in the Walking Dead packs.
Yep.
They had autograph books though. They did have autograph books and
blood splatter. There was a lot of variants.
Yeah, but that's the same type of stuff that you're seeing in these, right? You have the foil books, you have autograph. I mean, you can get ratios. He says they didn't have autograph either in there. So,
who said that?
Clutch.
This guy named.
What did they have then, Clutch? Tell us what was in those, because I remember people pulling autographs out of some blind box that they were getting.
You probably had a customer signing those things.
No, I remember.
I'm mixing it up with the boxes.
Yep.
Oh, the 25th anniversary boxes.
25th anniversary.
Yeah, and those, yeah, those weren't $4.99. So,
that included all Image books was in that.
Yeah, there was Invincible. There was a bunch of different types. Yeah.
Right.
So
I'm
again,
just saying it's highly possible that a lot of customers who are paying this crazy price for these blind boxes with A, B, or C, or blind bags with A, B, or C, are thinking that they're getting something else.
Are you saying Are you saying customer or retailer?
Customer. I don't think the retailers. Yeah.
No.
Well,
I think
that's up to the customer, though, or the retailer to inform the customers.
Well, you would think, but
Yeah.
you said it. There's a lot of shady sellers.
Well, I want
Right.
to bring I want to bring this up. A lot of people in the chat are bringing up the fact that how much their LCS is selling them for. I see some people saying that their LCS is selling them for $9 to $10 a piece. Other people are saying their LCS is keeping with the retail MSRP. What are your guys' thoughts on that? If it's a new product that's coming out, I mean that's a very fine line, right?
I'm not shitting on the product. Let me just say this: there's 400,000 of them in circulation. That of 3 different covers that are available inside that book.
No, there's more than 3 different covers.
More than that.
Oh,
All the way to I.
There's 3 special foils. There is you can get the 8. There's like 6 or 7 different covers you can get in there. Hold on.
Yeah.
I think you can get the 1 in 25.
Yeah, you can get the 1 in
No,
25, the 1 in 1,000, the 1 in 100. You can get all those.
Okay,
Right.
but what I'm saying is there's 400,000 of them. These
There's
blind bags.
500,000 king spawns.
Yeah, and how much? You know how many King Spawn #1 of 3 different covers I found in dollar boxes at conventions?
Tons of them.
Yeah, because
Just like every other one that's sold big. Because they're
Right,
all
but
going
what
for
I'm
the one
saying
with
is-
the Berserker.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that if you're paying more than $3.99, find a retailer that's selling it for $3.99 because there's 400,000 of these.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think Walking Dead 100, I think there was 250,000 of Walking Dead 100.
There is a lot, but so what it comes down to is if you got to remember there's 2 different customers here. You got your store customer, you got your orphan customer. The orphan customer doesn't have a store to go to. Now, we could reverse that and say then the store customer needs to find someone selling them online for $3.99 since that is the SRP. I think that's the MSRP, not just
or $4.99
Comics
to
have
cover
a
your
price
fees.
on the book, but
Yeah.
it's not an MSRP.
It's not an MSRP. It's a SRP. Okay.
Yeah.
No. For new issue day.
Yeah, there's nothing that says in my contract that says I have to sell them for what they.
No. But what we're saying is it's
As
the
long as it's on the
manufacturer.
date that
MSRP is manufacturer suggested price.
Right.
The manufacturer, Image, Skybound, has said we suggest you sell these for $3.99, and we're basing your discount structure on our MSRP for this item.
So that's everything in which bag? Right.
Okay, so before we bring Clutch in, Clutch is here, but before we get to, I'm gonna lay this out. Here is what is in the Battle Beast blind bags from Skybound. You can get a Battle Beast cover A, you can get a Battle Beast cover B, you can get a Battle Beast cover C, you can get a Battle Beast cover D, which is the 1 in 10. You can get a Battle Beast cover E, which is a 1 in 25. You can get a Battle Beast cover F, which is a 1 in 50. You can get a 1 in 100. You can get a 1 in 1,000, which is signed and graded foil. You can get a cover I, a blank sketch cover, which is just a blank, no sketch on it. A cover J, which is a die cast foil mask
Die cut.
cover. Die cut.
cast.
Sorry, die cut. And a cover K, which is the 1 in 2,000. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It looks like 11 books that you can pull out of the Blind Beast, out of the Battle
Set?
Beast blind bags.
Set
No.
from the wholesale.
No.
Okay.
Okay, holy cow.
Sorry, guys.
There we go. Okay.
I'll admit I am not high enough to be on this show with you guys. So I'm a little high, but I'm not high enough.
Okay.
When I gotta go, Dennis, let me go. So I think that might be a little bit of the confusion too on that list you just had up, Ryan. It's because people are seeing that and they're like, "Oh, this is all the stuff that's in there." That's actually not. That's just the full cover list. But the 1 in 2,000 sketch covers are not in those bags. So those are only for stores who did order
Only goes up
2,000.
And
only
that
up to I,
CGC
right?
is only for the stores that ordered 1,000, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So-
what did you say?
It's up to I.
Yeah, it's up to the 1 in 1,000, and the 1 in 1,000 is at ratio for that. So it's not like there's like they printed like 3,000 of those and just shoved them in these bags. Like
Right.
it's an actual 1 in 1,000 chance to get that book. So those are the rarity of those is probably those are the most rare books most likely, right? When you look at like the numbers, right? The 1 in 1,000.
What I'm trying to say, and like I said, Clutch, I'm not shitting on the product. It's a great product.
I don't give a crap.
Retailers ordered
I know who you are, Dennis. It's
400,000.
fine.
Retailers ordered 400,000, even with all
Not
of
of the blind
chases.
bags, but
Oh, they did not the blind
400,000
bags?
altogether.
400,000 total orders for Battle Beast
Oh, okay.
between A, B, C, D, and then incentives included, and then in that chunk, the C covers are that's the blind bag, and so I would assume the blind bag is probably like close to half, because I think people realize I can get a blind bag and whatever tricks are with that later on, having seen it in the past with Walking Dead or the Harley stuff or whatever, like, you know, those things hold value for a very long time. Like people are still selling the Walking Dead ones for like $20 on live shows now, which is weird. So I think a lot of people did buy those. And so I might guess it's probably 40% of the overall print run is the blind bags. Probably like a safe guess.
What I'm saying is to pay
Yeah.
25 to get a chance to open one of these when there's 200,000 sitting at 1,200 retailers plus garage accounts.
Yeah, and I agree with your point too, that I think it's on, you know, most people who go into an LCS ask the questions, they get told the answers. They're like, hey, this is what's up. I feel like a lot of the sellers who are in the, you know, live streaming category, just like, oh, I got this thing, I'm going to run it. And I saw one seller on Whatnot the other night talking about like, you know, these bags are trash or whatever. I'm like, bro, and because you pulled like an A cover and then a B cover back to back. And I'm like, I just wanted to scream. I'm like, dude, these aren't meant to be $50 blind bags. These aren't meant to be $20 blind bags. These are $4 books, $5 books. That's what they are. The hit is like when you pay $5 and you get something awesome, not when you pay $50 and you get nothing good. Like that's the balance. And it's a very frustrating thing to see in the space, because like, again, this is like that part that we've talked about before, and the fact that like the comic industry does not understand the trading card industry. And then I'm talking to this publisher side, right? Like there's so much that goes into creating the packs, making the chases, the ratios, sorting, collating, all that stuff that we don't get because our model is so different, right?
Well, and that's
Card
where I say
companies
there's a
blow it
lot
all
of
the time.
There's a little bit of blame to go to Image and Skybound on this, because I saw their TikTok or their Instagram reel or whatever when they're like, okay, well, the cat's out of the bag here, and there's some little guy down in the corner and he's explaining what was in these. You can get the Invincible Spider-Man, you can get the this, that, and the other, but they didn't say anything about all of those other things that you can get in it. They didn't say that this is, you know, a product that is meant to be sold at $3.99. There's just certain things that I think they could have added to that launch.
mean, Dennis, you're commenting based on a TikTok. Like they have press releases that talked about what was in there. They put all the more detailed information has already been sent out. It's been up on Bleeding Cool. It's been through Lunar. It's been on comicbook.com. It's been on all these sites. A TikTok is a TikTok, dude.
But what I'm saying is this is the perfect example. You've got one retailer who definitely ordered it, another one who's involved with another promotion in this book, Brian, who's been talking about this for a month, okay, and me, who's just kind of Johnny come lately, but I know this industry, and none of us knew the facts until you came on.
Well, again, because you guys aren't looking at. You guys are there's so much information you guys are taking in. You didn't take the time to Dennis, like you didn't know about this at all. So you're not looking at Bleeding Cool every day. You're not looking at the Skybound Twitter. It's like all that stuff. Like that's where that information is. Like you as an LCS owner do need to kind of search a little further than
I'm a different store though.
Doing, right?
Clutch, I'm a different store. I don't carry new books.
That's been very blatant for, known for a long time. So,
don't insult me with that.
No. I'm just saying you've touted that.
Dennis, you need to get out there and find more information about the stuff that you don't sell. How dare you not know about the stuff you don't sell?
But you get on here and you get mad about it, which is like,
I didn't get mad. I just said I think there's a lot more information. There's so much information out there that it needed to be clarified by the one source that's drumming up interest in this, which is that little. I'm talking about it on this show, in my chat. My phone's listening, and they fed me a thing about Battle Beasts with the little image kid down in the corner talking about all the exciting stuff you can get out of the blind bag. Somebody fed that to me. They fed it to me because they think I'm a customer.
Now, as we're talking about it, or was that before?
It's the algorithm. I don't know. It just came up.
No, when did you see that TikTok video?
2 days ago.
Okay, so different than what we're talking about right now. What you said is why it fed it to you right now. Sorry.
No, I've been talking about this. I've been talking about this. I've been talking about this with Jesse and Brian all week on phone calls.
Yeah.
And your phone is listening to you. I'm not wearing a tinfoil hat when I tell you, if you talk about something, your phone hears it and then it'll feed you stuff.
Right. But I think this is a lesson learned, and it will just get fixed next time. And I think whatever communication needs to be added will be added. I don't think we should look at this in any way as a negative. I think the books will come out tomorrow. The consumer will buy them for $3.99. The people that paid more, that's on them and those retailers. But the retail shop itself, now I did see a retail shop selling them for $9.99 in the chat, and the guy's like, I'm never going to shop there again. We'll see how that fruitions.
Sure.
But you got to keep in mind, folks, if you're a retailer, it's just not about Battle Beast tomorrow. It's about another 90 titles you got to sell.
Yeah. And
this is just a bonus that you should be able to sell to every customer that walks in. Look at this nice, shiny thing.
I'm making lifetime customers. Mine will be $3.99. Everyone that sells is going to be gone. And those people will, every time they're looking for the book, the hot book that comes out, they're going to come check my store. If I'm sold out,
are you going to have any limits on
subscribers?
Emmett, are you going to have any limits on them?
Always. One per customer.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. And honestly, like Emmett, you talk about like building lifetime customers, like that stuff, Dennis, like we would talk about for years at the retail versus you would be like, hey man, like I saved these things I got from San Diego Comic-Con, I got these things signed, and you give them out to us. So there's parts about your store, like understanding like, hey, I'm going to build a relationship with this customer for a long time because I'm treating them fairly with this product, and this is what I'm going to. So you guys, I think you guys are all three amazing guys in that realm, right? Let's get back to talking about the blind bags and what the confusion is. Again, I agree with Dennis, which is so weird to say sometimes.
Just soak it in.
I think you guys do need to make a shirt like that says, I agree with Dennis.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with me? Something like on there, would be good. But like, I do agree that there could be more information out there, but the information was put out there. So a person like your store where, weekly comics is not your jam, of course you're not going to find out about it. Like until Jesse, who does, or Emmett, who does, mention it to you. And sometimes there is going to be that little game of telephone that goes from like, hey, I read this press release, or I saw this little blurb, or this Instagram post that's now gone because the algorithm keeps shoving more shit in your face. Like, it's just, that's where it is. So we have a really good, I honestly do think that the team of, don't do what, Alex? The team over at Skybound did a really good job. I'm not going to lie. The team at Image, to their part of what they handled with this project, did a good job. This thing was bigger than anybody freaking thought. I can guarantee you, nobody was like, yeah, we're going to sell 400,000 copies of this book. No one. Even with all the incentives and all that stuff, it wasn't a thing they thought about. So, like, knowing the process they went to this, like, they have been working their tails off on this thing. And also, congrats to Skybound, but also running a $4.5 million Kickstarter for Transformers companions.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Those guys are cranking, and I guarantee you, if it's anything like it was when I was there, they're all pretty understaffed and they're probably overworked. They are all busting their humps. So, like, you can only do so many things in a day with what they have. Like,
well, the other thing,
all the leeway in the world,
and the piece of shit retailers that broke street date and started selling these things and ripping them. I know you're not going to call them a piece of shit, but I'll call them a piece of shit.
No, dude, honestly, I've called them worse. And Brian's heard me talk about it in the past couple of days, but like the thing with that too,
they're the ones that put everybody on the back heels.
Sure. Absolutely. And that is the two things are one point is the fact that this is the new world we live in. So online retailers, these live sellers, Like, this is a thing that we have to figure out how to properly work with. And then the other part is that I think, again, with this release and these blind bags, like, I don't think like Skybound, Image, and Lunar were prepared for what this truly was. Like something like this, like if your stores have baseball cards and you get current stuff, like, you know that like if you get a new Topps release and you break street date, part of your agreement with the distributor, you are gone. Like, you are gone. They will, and Topps will ban you from everything. So we don't have, because we don't do this as a like at large scale for this type of stuff,
Right.
we don't have that built into the system, I don't think. And so I think it's a thing that should be thought about. But then again, you look at the flip side of how this industry is, and you guys all have been, LCS owners for, a collective of probably like close to 100 years, right? Like combined years. Like, you think about it, it's like, we know how fragile this industry is, and you kick off one guy, not everyone can be like Dennis, where like, hey, I'm not going to do weekly comics. Like, a lot of shops do, their like livelihoods do hinge upon that avenue. And so when you start kicking one here, one there, that our little fragile spot that we have now gets a little more delicate. So
Well,
I
and
think we have to be very careful with how we do it, but I think it needs to be done. I do think there needs to be consequences for these type of actions. And I said this the other night to, I think, to Brian and the guys on the Saturday show, was like, there should be Lunar's back end of their site is amazing. I love it so much. It's so easy to use for me to just pop in, get my stuff, get out. There could easily be some sort of like mechanism that when you FOC your order with a product such as this, that says, hey, like, we have a very strict, very strict date on this one. You can't show any pictures. You can't sell in person. You click this box that says, I do understand. And then these are the consequences. And then before your order can go in, you have to click that and say accept. Like, that's a thing that could be put in there. And I think should, for a lot of releases that are this delicate, because we've seen leaks and we've seen all that stuff, and it just sucks as a publisher side. And I could tell you, like, knowing Robert for as long as I did, working so close to him, like, that dude, and you guys know, like, he loves the Wednesday surprise at the LCS.
Yep.
Void Rivals was that way because, he had Transformers in a book. You go back to, Die, Negan Lives, Red Foil, the foil stuff that came to the stores. Like, he loves to treat the LCSs with as many cool things to get people to come in the doors. Like I said earlier,
something with firepower.
Firepower, yeah. It was like, hey, here's
Walking
a whole
Dead,
trade
the
or something
end
like
of the
that. Like, they've done that
series.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the way Walking
So
Dead
many
ended.
cool things that he's done that is for the Wednesday shop.
Yep.
But again, we're also in this new world where these online guys are like, they're selling, like Jesse knows, you sell at 12:30 a.m. until 3:30 a.m. Like, people are selling things all the time. It's just not a 9 to 7 o'clock
Jesse also
show.
got hit up in the Bad Idea first releases.
Yeah.
How dare you sell our product for more than what we told you could sell it for?
Yeah.
Well, here's what's interesting to me, and I think that what Clutch is saying and what we've said in the past is that this is a first for Skybound doing this, right?
Yeah.
This is not only a first for Skybound, it's a first for a lot of companies for doing this. On the scale of it,
like,
yep.
Light bags earlier were different. This is
Well,
this is
and I just want to
different.
add one more giant 800-pound gorilla in the room.
I'm not that fat, dude. Come on.
But you are a giant. This is post Diamond.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking 5 months ago, Image was going to release this through Diamond.
They've been at Lunar for longer than 5 months.
But they were still at Diamond 5 months ago.
Sure.
So this would have gone through Diamond. The fact that all of this got pushed over to Lunar, all of this got solicited through Lunar. You know what I'm saying?
It's a miracle.
It's an entire Lunar product. All of those safeguards that Diamond had in place for a lot of the launches that Skybound had done before. I remember we had special tape. There was yellow caution tape on the Walking Dead 100s.
I don't remember that at all.
There was something on there that was about the street date. Like we
Not
got
that I
it in
can
the special
recall.
box. You don't remember that?
No.
It was in a special box, a special delivery.
Here's the other
did
thing.
You might be confusing. Like there was a San Diego Comic-Con pack that we did that had like a top secret, and it was in like a Manila folder, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that was
What
it
he's
then.
talking
I don't
about.
know.
what you're thinking of, yeah.
But there were safeguards in place at Diamond to do stuff like this.
Right.
That was
but I
the
think
Tiger
that-
Force
though, with
GI
Diamond.
Joe Walking Dead set. Clutch.
Yeah.
People still leak that stuff all the time at Diamond. You know, it wasn't
Yeah.
a thing. I mean, Diamond leaked that stuff too. You know, like
Right, and this isn't a LCS issue; it's an online issue. That's where the issues are happening. So that affidavit that you're talking about, that needs to specifically be towards these people selling
It
online.
needs to be for everybody that has a retailer a license,
yeah, but most
right?
I can't see too many retailers putting this out on their shelf 5 days early.
I saw a shop in one of the Carolinas on Thursday selling these.
Had the
on-
book out? Wow.
Yeah, they were selling them on Whatnot for auctions. It
Well, on
you know, and
Whatnot,
it
but
was
not in their
it
store.
happened.
Well,
Everyone
but
who
you don't
got it
think-
because they saw Trinity on Wednesday night sell them first, sell them
Okay.
for $50, and everyone's like, if
I need to get in
this
on
guy
this.
can do it. Exactly, Brian's.
I'm
like,
gonna
And,
miss
and
out.
guess what? If you're that guy who twists that little moral compass just that far enough to sell on Whatnot, you're telling me your best customer who's been buying everything that's come out that you put in front of him, and he walks into your store 5 days early after you've sold one on Whatnot and says, dude, you got to hook me up with those. Come on, man. Don't make me wait 5 days. Okay, here you go. Once you start twisting that moral compass, Clutch is right. They'll sell in the store.
So
If they're
I
selling on
think
Whatnot, they'll sell in the store.
we got to give a little bit of credit, or not credit, but a little bit of leeway to Skybound and Lunar and Image on this for the fact that, yeah, it could have been a little bit easier to put on the bag, hey, this is what you can pull. There are 3 special books in here that you can pull. We're not saying what it is. You know, that might be something in the future that they'll look at and they'll change.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think it's also, yeah, I mean, again, goes to the point, Brian, like these guys have never done it before, so they're just, this is a new thing for them
Here's
to
a
do.
question,
so.
Clutch. And I mean,
Yeah.
you're the card guy. I think you're more of a card guy than all of us, even though Brian rips a bunch of shit. Does Topps have to put that breakdown on the back of its packs of you have a 1 in 10 chance of doing this, a 1 in 20 chance of doing this?
Yeah, I think there is like a legality thing that goes to it. Part of the, I mean, I
So
think
it's
Magic the
definitely
Gathering does it
something
too,
I
whatever.
think all of these publishers and everybody going forward really needs to consider, because all it takes is one pissed off unemployed lawyer to make a stink about it. That what they sold me an unlicensed lottery ticket in a state that has this particular law that says the chances of winning have to be this. I mean, I just think that if we're going to go forward with this new business model of collectible trading comics, that we should probably start looking at the legality of all 50 states and go, yeah, we probably need to start putting all of these things that card companies have been putting on for 2 decades.
Yeah, there's
I
probably,
don't think there's an
I would
expected
assume there's
value.
something to that, yeah.
There has to be an expected value.
Well, I mean, if you're selling it as something that can get this, you're selling that gambling chance.
There is no specific law for putting hit rates on there, but listen, I'll tell you what, you don't put hit rates on there, and a lot of people aren't going to buy the product. It's just the way it is, and it's
That's a good point. As more of a consumer focus
exactly.
option, that makes sense, Brian.
And
there's
it's
one autograph per. Oh, I'm buying that box.
yes.
I'm guaranteed an autograph. Oh, it's a doink. Oh, well.
Yes, totally, man. It's just again, I'm gonna tell you what I told one of these guys the other day. The most important thing that I've learned from the people in this industry that I respect, that are retailers and that are in this retailer game, is how important it is to respect your customer. Okay, and
100%.
that is the number one thing. You know, respecting your peers and your other retailers is probably next to that, but respecting your customer is the other thing. And your customer wants to know, okay, what are they able to get out of these? You know, what are if they're going to spend a lot of money, you know, on a product. Now, $4.99 or $3.99, a lot of us are going to say that isn't a ton of money, but some people aren't just buying one of these; they're buying 100 or 200 of them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's the other thing. The publishers that we have fallen in love with on this show and these people on this panel, Skybound, Image, Boom, have always had a thing with how important it is for the customer. And we've talked about how Kirkman loves to, have that amazing feeling when the customer comes into that shop and gets a surprise. That's the love for the customer as much as it is the love for the hobby, right? So if we keep that same method, it's going to get better. This is the first time go around. It's going to get better. Not only are the information on each pack is going to get better, the quality of how you open them will get better. The quality of being able to make sure that there's no tampering, all that stuff will get better with time because we, the customers, will demand it, right? And that's the thing. So that being said, I want to jump and get Clutch out of here because I know he's got a lot of stuff he's setting up for.
Right.
A lot of people have been talking about the fact that
Wait,
there
do these
is.
go live tonight? Do your boxes go live tonight, Clutch?
No, those go live tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
Throughout the weekend.
So a lot of people have been talking about the difference in these. When did you announce when did eBay announce the blind bat or the mystery packs that they're putting out?
It's a fantastic question. I think it was a couple weeks. It was a couple weeks ago.
2 weeks.
We waited for a while. I think.
Yes.
Would you say?
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
because we were waiting for, I think, certain stuff to come through. I think I teased it. Yeah. The first announcement here I just pulled up on Instagram, but it was my Instagram doesn't work. But yeah, it was a few weeks back. Yeah.
okay. So that's important to talk about too. That this has been announced for a while. I don't think that also anybody that can confuse these two. It's possible, but I think if you're in this industry,
I'll admit there is a lot of confusion because I get a lot of people messaging me on Instagram and Facebook and stuff like asking about. So there is confusion about it, and I will admit, like, we made sure that we called it a different thing, right? So the blind bags from Skybound are called the Battle Beast blind bags, and we made sure are the eBay Live. I think it's comic trading pack, Jesse.
eBay.
So we wanted to make it sound different, right? So the name of it is different, but still people are like, oh, is this the same one? And it's a little confusing. I'll admit that for sure.
And customers
it's
are
not your fault though. There are a lot of people that are in comics who are not reading comics, who are doing it as a side hustle investment. These guys don't buy from me. They come in and talk to me all the time, and they're buying on Whatnot, and they're just like, oh, this is a bag and I can get something. And they're buying it because they think it's something it's not. And, they're paying for this education. If they don't know, they don't know. And
that's
if they want to spend their money,
that's a really good point. Because I've talked to, my buddy Chris Roop, and he's got his shop out there in Ohio. And he said, he's had people come in, sell him collections that are just like stuff from Whatnot or whatever. And he's like, I've never had this person ever come into my shop. Yep. He's been there for 30 something years and he's never seen this person buy, but they're buying from Whatnot and all that stuff. So there are a lot of consumers who don't go into the LCSs and they just go on these apps.
And sadly, and I'll add to that, I've had 2 of those people come into my store, and I don't even sell new books.
Yeah.
And they've got short boxes of, oh, and this was a Whatnot exclusive limited to 50, and this was a Whatnot exclusive, and I'm just like, if I start looking these up on eBay, am I going to find that they're all $10 each? Well, I paid $50 on Whatnot. Okay, I understand that.
Yeah.
But you have a short box of stuff that was only sold on Whatnot.
And that's also, that goes into, just education and teaching, our customers and stuff.
And
it's kind of like, Jesse, I don't know if you remember the late 90s, but I had a buddy who owned a comic book store and I'd hang out there. I remember the people bringing in the QVC stuff that Nikki Barucci was selling on
sure.
QVC for
Yeah.
$50 to $100, and
Gets
they
good money
thought-
now.
Well, it's good money now, but
Yeah.
not in that sweet spot where it was limited to 10,000 units, as the industry has literally hit the iceberg and sinking, and they thought they were going to get $200 for this thing.
Well,
you tell someone that a book is limited to 10,000 copies now, they won't even touch it for cover price.
No.
I know.
No.
Here's
No.
the thing that I do want to say to end this conversation. Get Clutch out of here because he's got a lot of stuff he's getting ready for his sale tomorrow, which you guys make sure you go check it out. You can find the link below. I'll also post the link in the live chat. This conversation is important to me for one reason. It is something that is telling me that I need to be better about how I push out information on this platform. Okay. I'm not saying that I need to be spot on every time, because that's impossible. But I like Clutch said in the beginning here, I should have known what has been in this. We've been talking about it for weeks. We should have been a little bit better informed about it. So not only do we say, okay, the manufacturer needs to have a little bit, inform a little bit better, but they did put the information out there, and I should be able to search that information out myself a little bit better. So we're all going to work to make this better, and that's the important thing.
Yeah, but Brian, here's my hot take on it. You're the pothead Joe Rogan who might get a few things wrong, but you're having the conversation that we're having the conversation that gets the information out there. It might start in the wrong place. It might go over to a total sequitur, but at some point Clutch comes on and says, no, you're wrong about that one, Brian. No, I agree. There might be some confusion. This is what's happening here. This is what's happening here. Let's move forward. Tomorrow's going to be a great day. It's a great project. Let's move on. But
Amen.
The point is the conversation happened because of you putting this show together.
Yep.
Right.
And that is the important thing, and that's why the platform is set up the way it is, to have this type of conversation. So great stuff, and again, thank Clutch for jumping in here and for the second night in a row.
You need to come and be the younger man yelling at the clouds.
Yeah.
It's nice to be like a gray guy and be the youngest gray guy.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Again, you guys, I will say this too before I jump off. Like, I do appreciate you guys doing the show. It's very fun to listen to you guys. That's why I'm sitting here cleaning stuff and listening to you. And I'm like, okay, I have to jump in on my little piece there too. So Brian, thank you for sending the link over. I'm glad I can help clear some stuff up. And
before you leave, let everybody know about tomorrow's event that is coming up at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, and so Jesse got his stuff today, which is awesome. So I'll try to be really brief about the pack. So eBay, Skybound, myself put together this program, and we started talking about this in November, right? So this has been in the works for a very long time. And because Skybound had their blind bags, I was like, hey, what if we tried to do something with eBay to do something that's very similar to what Whatnot's been doing with the Marvel packs? And let's put something together. But I was like, I want it to be a little more bespoke, something a little more custom, a little more kind of just like, a true service to the fans of Invincible, because it's probably my favorite all-time comic. So we put these bags together. So there's 3 books in there. So one of the books is a blind bag book. So Skybound was amazing enough to work with me to get me, just over 1,000 books from the blind bags sent out before they blind bagged them. So they weren't in the bags. They didn't go through this stuff. They were put in boxes, shipped to me, and good. And it was in the ratio of what it was. So you've got, you only have, the same ratio numbers of what, the Marvel book would be, or the 19 or the foil number 2. Like, so I don't have there's not 500 of those. It's exactly what it was in their ratios. And so same with the 1 in 1,000. Shout out to Sean Makowitz from Skybound for giving me a second 1 in 1,000 to throw in the packs, which is really cool. So thanks, bud. And then the other book is the one that's the cover image here. So that's the Pete Carroll variant that we did. And shout out to Brian here for finding Pete on Instagram and tuning us into him, because this guy is amazing. So he did these two versions, the trade dress, and then there's a foil version, which it looks amazing. That picture doesn't even do it on Judge. It's so good. Oh my God. And then the third book in there is where the fun gets in there. And so this is where the sketch cover thing gets a little confusing, because I went and got 26 sketch covers done while at MegaCon and while at C2E2. And so those are one-of-one sketch covers from a bunch of different artists like Ryan Otley, Rose Besh, Art Baltazar, Mike, maybe Mike Choi if it shows up in time.
I saw Mike Choi drawing it.
Did Art do it in kitty fashion?
Yeah.
You'll see it here. It's towards the end of this video.
Oh, I got to see this one.
He joked with me. He's like, I've only got crayons and Sharpies. And I was like, that's amazing.
I love it.
But he did probably, I think, one of the most amazing renderings here. It's coming up here in a second.
I'll pause it on there.
Yeah.
Look at these. They're so great. And I'm going to go check out, I'm going to go show Mike Choi. He put out a post today of him working on it, which is fantastic.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
I haven't even seen it yet.
There's
the art one.
Oh, wow.
Like,
yeah, he used every square inch of it.
Cool. Like,
yeah.
Art killed it. I mean, that is the yeah style, and it's so amazing. So all these guys did these ones. So these, you have the chance to get one of these in these packs. You have a chance to get all these other crazy hits here and there. Oh my God. Holy smoke, Mike. That's crazy.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's one of the ones. That's it. Well, hopefully it arrives by tomorrow.
I want to add one more thing to this.
Yeah.
And it's part of my ongoing effort to make people understand that we're so similar to the music industry. But to me, it's events like this that separate. You want to make a stab at AI art and publishers that use AI art, and you see an opportunity. It's like, this is live art being drawn on these covers. This is a chance to support publishers that are doing it right, making it special, making the event special, kind of like that post-Napster universe where all the bands went out and toured and gave their best performances and did the best merch because they knew they had to make up for the lost sales that they were losing to Napster. They had to be special. They had to be different. They had to make the fans support them. This is one of those moments where you get that opportunity to support somebody doing it right and different. That's my 2 cents. Cool.
I can tell you 2 things. One, I bought more of this book than any other book this year. I'm a very small comic area, so small location. Location's big, but there's not a lot of population, so I bought more. And then I read it today, and it's fantastic. It's funny. It's exciting. The art's fantastic. The book is great. So like all this other song and dance would mean bullshit to me if it wasn't a good book, and it's a great book. Yeah. So I think a lot of credit goes to Image, and Kirkman to put out, a really good quality book instead of just a showpiece like they did at Whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, and I just want to do a shout out to Clutch. Very good job. Excellent job. I want to tell you something. I filmed something today, a shout out to Clutch and his thing. And I was doing it on my truck, right? And I was filming it, and he packed the box so well, I actually dropped the box at the end of the video. And I was like screaming, oh no, and not one item got damaged. So good job on the packing. Thank you very much for putting this together.
I'm definitely an overachiever when it comes to packing stuff and shipping stuff. That is for sure.
Fantastic.
But those packs were awesome to do. They look great. They're also, the books are bagged and boarded too, which is a big thing for me too, because a lot of the Whatnot stuff doesn't come bagged and boarded. And so I wanted to make sure that like they're sandwiched in there face to face. So the inside book, like, so you got backing boards on the back. You're not going to thumb them. Like trying to do like the little things that I think a collector would think about when they wanted to open something like this too.
Well,
I think
there's been a lot of complaints about the Whatnot. There was a lot of damages, right?
Yeah, I think
Right,
certain
Brian?
ones have had more than others. Yeah.
No, not much damage on the Whatnot
On this
stuff.
new batch. I mean,
I
the
didn't see
X-Men
any.
stuff back in the day.
The
had a lot.
first
I heard
batch.
that-
X-Men one was
I
was
heard the
bad.
Hulk ones had really big problems.
No.
Yeah, I haven't opened any, so
Again, it goes back to doing it for the first time and figuring out the problems that you need to fix and yada yada. So Whatnot did the first packs, and there was some damage in them. So they said, okay, now we're going to create these little boxes that you put the packs in, 3 packs to a box. Once they did that and they started sending them out, and they have their own little boxes, and then they go in another box, and then they send to you. That has really helped on the damages. So again, the next iteration will be better than the first, and that is the point. So, this is going to be the excitement of opening packs is something that is going to you can't get rid of that excitement no matter what. It's just there. It's fun. It really is extra fun on these live selling platforms. That's why breaks are such a big deal. I think we make fun of some of the guys in the card world who go crazy over stuff that they shouldn't be going crazy over, but there's a reason for that excitement. It's exciting. It is. It's fun when you pull something cool.
Can I ask the dumbest question that I'm probably going to get mocked about? So
I doubt it, but go ahead.
Battle Beast comes out of Invincible.
Yeah.
Okay.
like a baby.
No, we all know that Robert loves 80s toy lines. And now he has all of the fun Hasbro toys to play with. Are you telling me that is there a relationship with Battle Beast and Beast Formers a la the Battle Beasts that somehow might merge into the Void universe?
Oh, I don't think so, because I don't think Battle Beasts are owned by Hasbro anymore.
Oh, really?
No.
That'd be cool though. I love Battle
it was
Beasts.
recently-
I'm planting seeds here.
Well,
Clutch.
it was recently up for auction, so it might be owned by someone else now.
Oh
Okay.
wow! There we go.
Diamond owned the Battle Beasts.
Yes, I remember that.
S,
I
because
remember that.
They got the trademark and then put out those mini mates that were Battle
Nope.
Beasts.
Yeah.
And IDW
Yeah, so
had
they
the
had
comic
that for a
book.
while.
And IDW had the comic book for a while.
I don't know if they ever put out a comic book for
They
those.
did.
Did
Because
they?
trust me, I bought 100 of them and they didn't sell.
So I was going to say you were the only one.
I was the one because you got a free Battle Beast with it. I'm like an old school Battle Beast collector.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those
So,
mini mates. Those
my
mini mates are
hope
probably
was
the worst toy ever.
That somehow the Void Rival universe and the Invincible universe would nexus through Battle Beast.
Yeah,
just
I
want more
don't.
Invincible toys.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen, Dennis. But I like your brain.
There you
Tell
you're looking
Robert
for
that's
fun
my
stuff.
idea. He could have it for free. I won't sue him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Clutch, thank you, brother.
Awesome.
I'll give you a
Guys, thank you
call
so
after
much.
the show, and we'll
give me a shout.
chat. Adios, brother. We'll see you soon.
Guys,
See you later.
keep up the great work with the show. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Later, brother.
Bye.
There we go. I mean, two great guests in one show. You got to love how that works. You guys, this is the type of show. There's a reason that we started this show. This show, we want to be a place where if somebody is watching and goes, I want to say something on that, they can, in the industry, they can jump on very easily. It's a safe space for comic book industry people and creators. This is a very safe space, and we want to keep it that way. So appreciate.
Unless you're trying to buy publishing or distribution companies. Don't come on here.
Yeah, then
Don't come on here until everything's
don't-
done.
Don't come on here.
And
There's too many
No, go ahead.
lawyers that are going to be having to watch this show in billable hours.
yeah, yeah. I think at the end of the day, what you're going to see is you got to keep in mind everything that happened pre today wait till you see tomorrow, and then wait till you see tomorrow night, because you're going to have a lot of
What's the over under on what you think these packs are going to average?
3 to
200
to a pack.
Yeah.
250 to 350.
I was thinking 250 is what I think the average is going to average out at.
Yeah, it just takes it's till the biggest book pops. Yeah, that the second that pops, I think that's when you'll see the rush. And then it also depends on, this is a cool thing, but it's an experience thing. And it really depends on how the seller is as well. They can't be just, hey, I got this pack. All right, you might get something in it.
I
This
think
is the guy that's like, oh my gosh, dude, wait till you see whoever wins this, we're going to open this up. And they're just, that's when you're going to see the dollars go up. But you're going to have some people that just have never done mystery packs before. Yeah. You know, last
sketch
time
covers are going to really push these things.
Right, exactly.
Those sketch covers are fucking amazing.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, remember in the late or the early 80s, the late 70s and the early 80s, we would get the 3-pack from, and it was a Star Wars pack, but you didn't know what was in the middle. Yeah. Right.
And even though we had in the middle, you pushed them.
Yeah,
up
exactly.
And down.
Yeah,
You knew what was in the middle. Only a noob didn't know what was in the middle.
Yeah. So we have gone through these experiences before with mystery packs, right? So it's just now it's a different level and it's a different dollar experience. The one thing I was kind of concerned about, and apparently it did not happen, is those guys that did pay $50 and got a cover A, did they actually pay for their book? You know, that type of stuff. I don't know how that works.
If they sold it on Whatnot, it took it out.
Automatically pays for it. Yeah, that's right. So,
well, that's going to be another thing that happens with this thing over eBay Live, because eBay Live hasn't put in the auto pays. So are people going to wait until the payment goes through before they open it?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's what you got. That is what you got to look for at the end of the day. So again, this is brand new. Everybody in the chat, I know some of you had some bad experiences, but trust me, this is going to be better. It's going to be simple. The comic book industry is not easy. It's never been easy. Every event we have done, there's always been the one person that did the, well, what if I did it this way? I know what the rules are, but what if I do it this way?
That was you, Jesse.
Oh, I know. I've done that a lot, right? What if I do it this way, right? But when it came to Street Day, it's a little bit different story. So I think at the end of the day, most consumers, or I'm sorry, most retailers, like Dennis said, have the best interest of their customer. And the minute people we are talking about that broke street dates or did XYZ, that's just a small fraction. Most of us will stay within the realms, and hopefully those people learn from it, right? Some of them will learn that, listen, this is, you can get squeezed out of this business very fast.
Here's the thing. I think I know the answer, and it's this industry can't afford to lose one shitbag retailer because of high ideals and you know, whatever. They could punish them. They could say, you're going to get your box on Tuesday or Wednesday, but I don't think they're going to do that because they need every one of these retailers to survive right now.
Aren't we seeing a real increase of people coming, like some guys reopening? I know 2 guys that reopened comic shops.
Yeah, no, but I think
I think we're actually on the upswing. Actually, I think there's more people opening.
We're
but
rock
it's more
bottom.
like on.
We're rock bottom.
Really
you can only
Dennis,
go.
That it, like what the business that you're running, but they're adding new. I think that most guys are coming into the business as selling.
No, I understand that. I understand that, Emmett.
That doesn't even make sense, Dennis. You're opening up a store in a month. I'm opening up a new store.
It's a different store, Jesse. Your
matter.
store is not going to be like Jesse James
you sell comics?
Denny's.
You sell comics in any way, shape, or form.
No, I understand, but Jesse, we're talking about 2 different things: the old model and the new model. Okay,
well, you can
the
do
old
both.
model is about, and like I said, guys,
I don't think you can do both these days. I don't think you can just sell comics.
I don't want. Once you see the money that you can make in other ways, you don't necessarily have to do that weekly grind anymore. You can
but
taper
there
it
are
back.
some people that are making that other money.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say though is, I don't think we've even seen the rock bottom yet, because Universal and AdPop just inherited $33 million that they plan on collecting at some point if they're smart. There's still a lot of retailers out there that owe a lot of money to somebody.
They don't have the manpower to do that. They're
We
going to
got,
I don't even think it's that. I think it's the notion is so many people sell comics now that aren't part of that 1,200.
Yeah.
So if you take the Zia Records, the Ollie's, and then you go down this list of people, there's thousands of people that sell comics. When it comes down to weeklies, I think that's where you have to break it down. There's two. What was the first question?
So LC dropped a $4.99 super chat. He said, direct to consumer mystery packs in 2026 for all other series or titles, ? Or this will stay focused for the live auction market, ? What do we got? What do we think? Great show as always.
Well, I think Bambox has done it for 10 years, right? Go ahead, Dennis.
No, it's like what I was saying is okay, so you've got Image is like, hey, we got this blind box over here. Hey, Clutch wants to do a blind bag, different kind of thing for eBay. Okay, eBay wants to do a different thing. At some point, a publisher is going to do both. And that's the point where you start seeing these different business models merging. Like I said, I don't think they can afford to lose one retailer. So those whatnot sellers and the retailers are both going to buy that same product at some point. Maybe it's Dark Horse. Maybe it's the last leg of IDW. Maybe it's Marvel or DC. Says, we're not going to do it to whatnot. We're going to do it with retailers. I heard, I think it was Swaggle House, who was like, how long before Marvel realizes that they could put a piece of Doom's cape in a blind bag,
right? Yeah, I saw
and
that.
sell it to retailers.
Let me tell you something right now. They already know about that. You got it. And
That's
if you don't think,
because we're not buying their variants anymore.
if you don't think that Bolo, who is a very smart person when it comes to cards and card stuff, has gone to Marvel and said, hey, go to your props department and don't throw away anything. Give it to us. We'll figure out a way to get it in on a cover, and it will be our RP, whatever they call those. What are the big hits in cards?
Right.
The RPJs.
Well,
whatever.
let me ask you guys this: should LCS even worry about what is sold on Whatnot or eBay? Has anything to do with their business model?
Well,
No,
what do you mean worry? What do you mean worry? I think that they should pay attention because they could see that something is selling well on there, and it works in their store too. Like if they're paying attention and seeing that people are going crazy for Beanie Babies again, then they probably should start picking up Beanie Babies for cheap.
Does a LCS really care that these guys are selling them for $25 when they see the reaction of the customer and realize it's better just to do it the way that LCS?
It's better for my business.
Yeah, exactly. It's better for your business. So I don't know how much. Well, basically, what I'm saying is, how much does that business model reflect on the LCS? Does it make the LCS better in the long run of being the guy that did sell it for $4?
I want to throw a giant wet blanket on Brian McClay here for a second. Okay, Whatnot and Bolo and now Clutch and now all these guys. You don't think that just us are paying attention to this? There's a company called Upper Deck. There's another company called Fanatics. If they start seeing the numbers that these blind bags are putting up, and the comic book industry is encroaching on their little market of selling packs to habitual gamblers, you don't think they'll take a run at Upper Deck? And I think Topps has just, I think Marvel is getting the Topps license, or the Topps license is going to
the Marvel license going to Topps.
Okay,
well,
you don't
Topps
think Topps
is Fanatics, isn't it? Didn't Fanatics buy
correct?
Topps?
But you don't think that they're not going to pay attention to these little side markets, these little side hustles for these comic book blind bags, and go, "Hey, Marvel, thanks for giving us that $1 billion, and thanks for hooking us up with the RDJ autographs for our next 5 releases. Hey, can we do some of these comic book blind packs? Except for we'll do it a different way, and we'll have them in Walmarts, and we'll have them at GameStop, and we'll make them $20 a piece, and we'll pay you way more than what these whatnot people are paying you. You don't think Topps doesn't pay attention to this stuff, Brian?
I didn't say that.
But you were like, oh, no. This is that. You don't think that Whatnot could do that? No, I think that
I didn't say that. I said if you don't. I said if you don't think that Bolo has mentioned this to Marvel before, and I'm not saying he's the only person to mention it or nobody else is do it.
I'm just saying, however many Daredevil packs they made, how many Red Hulk packs they made, is nothing compared to what Topps is offering them for the Topps card license, or for the Marvel card license.
Topps
and
have
all
tried
they have to what?
Topps have tried doing comics. They're not touching that with a 10-foot pole again.
Dude, that
it's
it's not.
huge
There's
failure.
not one person at Topps right now that ever was involved with Topps Comics 30 years ago. Emmett, please.
Well, I know, but you don't think that they keep it? They know the history of the company.
I think they see. I think when they see 1,000, is it 1,000 packs of these or 100 packs?
1,000 of the big clutch packs. Yes.
When they see 1,000 packs at an average of $250 a piece, that's $250,000 for a battle beast that they don't even know what the hell that is. And then they see Whatnot do the Red Hulk.
That's the secondary market. They're not.
Great point. Great point.
That's the secondary market. It's none of them can.
Yes, Topps doesn't pay attention to the secondary market. That's why sealed boxes go up every year, Emmett.
But they can't sell the boxes for what they're selling for, and you can see that right now. They tried to do that the last couple of years, and the you can go buy them now for half price because people won't buy them.
Only time will tell.
The Topps,
and then I'll make. You know what? Okay, hold on. Let's make a little side bet. Everyone has to wear Dennis was right t-shirts if Topps makes a deal to do blind box comics anytime in the next 2 years.
I'll have it tattooed.
There you go. So is Luke?
My son's a tattoo artist. I'll have it tattooed.
Is Loot Crate still in business?
No.
When did they?
But they never had a gambling aspect to their. They never had a gambling aspect to their thing.
Well, I think still they were a mystery.
There were mystery, and there was very limited edition stuff you could get.
No, but everyone got the same
Oh,
box.
they're still in business. Maybe they are still in business.
What do you mean?
Are they? Okay.
Yeah, they still.
Everybody
but
didn't get the same thing.
Everyone, if you subscribed to the Loot Crate Star Wars box or the Loot Crate Geek box, every person who got that got the same product.
No, it says get a surprise mix.
Surprise mix. And you also could get
that's now. I'm talking back then. I knew the Loot Crate guys. I was buying their overstock.
Well, I know I would get like a 1 in 10 or a 1 in 25. The pins, like you get a pin in there. Everybody would get a pin. The possibility of getting a 1 in 25.
But those Chase pins never went for anything.
No, I know. But
the Star Wars Funko box would have like a Chase Funko, which was, but if you ordered 3 boxes, you were guaranteed of getting 1.
Right.
So I'm saying it's a moot point. It was not meant to be a gambling box. It was not meant to.
I think the important thing is, does this need, do mystery packs need to be consistent as far as how they come out? Because can we have
yes, they do. Yes, they need to be
6
consistent.
months?
Yes.
Okay.
And what do you mean by wait, hold on. What do you mean by consistent though?
So what I'm saying is consistently coming out, because if there's a gap to 6 to 8 months of eBay. No, I
don't think they need to be consistent. I think look what Whatnot's doing. They're just doing it on special occasions.
Right, but they're still doing it 4 or 5 times a year, right?
Yeah, but it's not like it's a set like every 2 months a new product comes out, like the card market or something.
Right.
But I think what you'll see though is that it's going to start getting watered down. They won't keep it to the same limited number. The numbers will start to keep creeping up as the profit is there. You just be like, oh, volume now. Now that we've got them all buying it, now I need volume. So
I think it'll be just like there is for cards. There'll be a volume pack where, you know, maybe the odds aren't as great, and then there'll be an HTA pack where, you know, the odds are higher but it's more expensive. That type of thing.
Well, I think they're just going to be selling it to sellers, right? So they don't care what the numbers are in the packs. It's just how many more sellers can I sell it to?
Did you have anybody pull this for their pull list, Emmett?
3.
3. Okay. How many packs did you order?
25.
25. Okay. So you think you'll have that much buzz tomorrow?
Emmett.
Oh yeah.
I'm not trying to trash on you, Emmett. So don't take it that way.
No worries.
But that's only a $50 investment. You don't think that this is a bigger event? I mean, I remember, Brian, when I was on one of your shows, like, I can't remember. It was either that or It's Drunken Chat. And we were talking about the Miss Minutes book, Timeless. And I'm listening to you guys, and I'm just like, there's a 1 in 25. It's a great cover. I literally just went over to my phone and ordered 25 of them. I'm like, what else are you going to invest $50 in other than something like this that I think is just a surefire hit? And I just think this is one of those moments where, you know, I mean, I don't know your business, Emmett, but I mean, if I was, I'd order a minimum of $100 at least. This seems like, you know what I'm saying? It just seems like one of those things that you go more in on.
Right. Didn't Billy order? How many did Billy order?
Ordered 1,000.
1,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's crazy.
That's $2,000 to get the variant.
Right.
So, yeah, I only bought $50 worth of those books, but today I bought $600 worth of stuff that will make me $5,000.
Right.
No, I understand that, but and it's and I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to trash on you, Emmett.
No,
what I'm saying is you have $600 in that stuff, but I just think that something like this is so special that you would want to go more all in on this because you're going to make $5,000 off a $600 purchase. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's kind of like me buying, guys, I'm going to sell all 5 of that kid's $6 comic book. My DMs are full of people going, dude, I will buy it. That is a great story. I'm probably going to sell 20 of this kid's comic. But I bought the 20 because I sold a $20 comic that I paid $1 for at a long box.
Yeah, but I think what you might
give
be
this
missing
kid $20.
is, yeah, but what you might be missing is his bill wasn't just $50. His bill was XYZ because of all the other books that he ordered.
I get it.
Yeah.
And you were the one saying there's 400,000. I knew there was going to be a lot out there. This is how many I'm going to be able to sell.
Right. Well, what's 40% of 400,000? 160,000 mystery packs? Wow, that's a lot of mystery packs.
So here's another interesting thing. If and you could play devil's advocate, Dennis, you can say, well, yeah, this is that big of a deal. How come you didn't order any? Even though you don't order new books, I've seen you order new books. You know what I mean?
Not from Lunar.
Yeah, but, you know, you could have one of us order it and you know.
Like I said, I've only heard you guys talking about it peripherally. I didn't even know that Battle Beast wasn't related to Beast Formers and the Battle Beast. Okay, so don't, you know, he kind of looks like the lion for Battle Beast. He kind of does.
Can I tell you, I actually like the die cut,
the mask one
foil.
Yeah,
the die cut mask foil one.
It's awesome.
Awesome.
My product mix is just such a way that I don't bother unless it's something that I'm like, oh my God. If somebody had said, oh, Dennis, you got to check out this Battle Beast, I would, oh, sure, order me 25, order me 50, order me 100, you know. But if it doesn't make my radar until it's past time, I'm not going to go chasing, you know. Don't go chasing waterfalls, kids.
Okay, I got to make an announcement, and I got to get to my live show here. I got 12 minutes to get ready. So we signed our lease today. We're good to go. We're doing all the fun stuff that if you haven't opened up the store, turning on power, changing locks, painting, ordering counters, all that fun stuff. So we should be up and going in 3 to 4 weeks. We do have 2 awesome store exclusives for the opening date stamp. So we can't wait to announce those 2 folks. Actually, it'll be 3. I just forgot about someone that said they'll do one today. So I'm very excited to get back from in the store, 8 months of doing live streaming, hanging out, and now I'm back into the retail world. Obviously, most of my business will still be online. And then I'm also excited. I'm hoping I'm the very first person in line Thursday morning for an amazing estate sale that just came out that has so much comics that I'm bringing some knives.
How far away is it, Jesse?
It's 28 miles away from me.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
After you finish your live stream, drive over there immediately, see if there's numbers or a list, sign up immediately when you get over
there isn't on this one. It's in first in line. I'll wait, check.
Street numbers, and somebody might start street numbers in a list, and then you'll be screwed. I'm just giving you, Jesse, you just froze, or is it me?
No,
He just froze.
Damn it.
Yeah. So
I'd sleep there.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for hanging out with us. 3-hour show.
Jesse gets to talk about his new store, and I don't get to talk about mine.
Okay, go ahead.
I just sent the security deposit today. The Toledo lawyer I had to hire to look over the new contract is good. He's going to approve it tomorrow. I'll be signing that lease, and Jesse and I are going to have the race to open our stores. But I think Jesse's going to beat it because he's a lot more dedicated than I am, and I get 2 months to build out. So
there you go. Not too shabby. Emmett, you opened up a new store yet?
Not yet, but maybe next year.
All right, there we go.
Listen, if nobody else is going to open new comic stores, I'm going to open new comic stores.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you for everybody hanging out with us tonight. We will see you guys tomorrow night here for our Wednesday night show, where we'll be hanging out with the crew and watching the sale. So come hang out with us tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The link for Clutch's show at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern is below. It's also pinned in the live chat. Don't miss out.
Forget, Brian, you're going to have packs. So
yeah.
So you're going to have packs as well to take part in this.
So that's what I'm talking about, you guys. We will see you guys soon. Adios.